Little guy, are you okay? Temporal Temple Master looked at Jian Wushuang. I'm fine, but I've already used the life-saving command talisman you gave me, Jian Wushuang said. That's good. As for the life-saving command talisman, I only gave it to you in the divine beginning realm, but in the universe battlefield, it can't completely protect you from death. Moreover, you're facing a ruler who specializes in space-time techniques. Temporal Temple Master smiled slightly. Then, he looked at the two people in front of him. The two of you should be from Devil Cloud Star, right? I wonder if that Devil Cloud Star Master is doing well. The Temporal Temple Master asked. My Star Master has great strength. Naturally, he's doing very well. You're the Temporal Temple Master from the divine beginning realm? It seems that you're just a low-level ruler. The tall man stared at the Temporal Temple Master. There was a hint of disdain between his brows. Rulers had different levels of power. A low-grade ruler was at the bottom of the rulers. Even though the tall man and the devilish young man were only at the low-grade ruler realm, the two of them had great backgrounds and had seen many things. They were also extremely powerful. An ordinary low-grade ruler would naturally not take them to heart. I know that I'm not strong enough. However, this place is no longer the territory of the Devil Cloud Star. Can the two of you give me some face and call it a day? The Temporal Temple Master said. Call it a day? Temporal Temple Master, you really know how to joke. The tall man's voice was cold. Although you didn't participate in the battle in the divine beginning realm, you already know the reason behind it. Since that's the case, you should know the purpose of our trip. If you know what's good for you, you should just get lost. Otherwise, you should know the consequences. Of course, I know the consequences. However, this little guy is still a member of our temporal temple. Right now, he's right under my nose. As the temple master, I can't just ignore this little guy, said the temporal temple master. If that's the case, then you should die together with him. The tall man's aura was cold, and a shocking killing intent had already burst out from his body. Temporal Temple Master, in that battle back then, you were able to keep your life because you hid far away. However, since you want to intervene today, then there's no need for your temporal temple to exist anymore. The demonic youth said in a low voice. Ha ha! The Temporal Temple Master suddenly laughed. The two of you are overestimating yourselves. Although this old man is only a primary ruler and doesn't have the confidence to win against any of you one-on-one. If this old man wants to leave, I'm afraid the two of you won't be able to stop this old man. Really? The young man's eyes turned cold, and the surrounding void instantly froze. The entire space-time had completely stopped flowing, and everything had stopped moving. Standing in the void, Jian Wushuang could clearly sense the changes in the surrounding space-time, and he was immediately shocked. What a terrifying space-time technique. This man didn't even use his full strength before, Jian Wushuang exclaimed. He knew that if the evil-looking young man had used this technique from the beginning, he would not have been able to crush the life-saving talisman. However, in the face of such a space-time technique, the Temporal Temple Master just smiled and waved his hand. Like a spring breeze, the space-time around him began to revolve again, and the speed was increasing. The area was also growing larger and larger. In just an instant, the space-time power of this world was completely under the control of Temporal Temple Master. How is this possible? The demonic youth looked at Temporal Temple Master in shock. Haha! I've already said that if I want to leave, the two of you won't be able to stop me. Goodbye. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Temporal Temple Master grab Jian Wushuang with one hand. With a flash, he disappeared into the void. After Temporal Temple Master disappeared, the fast-moving void regained its calm. The evil-looking young man and the tall man both stood in the void with unsightly expressions, especially the evil-looking young man. He glanced at the void where Temporal Temple Master had disappeared and found that the traces of space-time remained for a brief moment. But suddenly they were completely wiped out, and even he could not continue to chase after them. It seems that we have underestimated this Temporal Temple Master, the demonic youth said in a low voice. Although this Temporal Temple Master is only a primary ruler, his usage of space-time energy is indeed extraordinary. In fact, he is much stronger than me. Just now, this demonic youth had actually fought head-on against the Temporal Temple Master. But the result of this battle was that the Temporal Temple Master had won. With a ruler realm expert who uses space-time energy in such a profound way as a helper, it won't be so easy for us to continue attacking Heavenly Sword Marquis, the demonic youth said. That's true, but it's not as if we don't have a chance. After all, this time it's just the two of us. Both of us are only elementary rulers, and the High Ruler who came with us this time is still on Sacred Island. That treasure is also with him, the tall man said. That's true. The evil-looking young man nodded slightly. Let's go back. The two rulers felt a little regretful that they could not kill Jian Wushuang, but they did not give up. Instead, they returned to the Sacred Island and began to think again. In the void, Temporal Temple Master also appeared quietly. After he appeared, Jian Wushuang immediately looked around, but he did not see the two rulers again. Don't worry, I've erased the traces of space while I'm moving. They won't be able to catch up, Temporal Temple Master said with a smile. Jian Wushuang heaved a sigh of relief and then bowed respectfully to Temporal Temple Master. Thank you for saving me, Temple Master. You're welcome. You're a subordinate of the Temporal Temple. It's my duty to save you. Temporal Temple Master waved his hand. Jian Wushuang also smiled, but then he asked, Temple Master, why are you here? Jian Wushuang was indeed puzzled. Haha, it's very simple. I arrived at the Wuxin Lake a few days ago. I originally planned to wait for you at the lake, but on the way, I sensed a strong energy fluctuation in the surrounding void. It must have been an expert at the ruler realm, so I went there to take a look. However, before I arrived, I sensed that you used my life-saving talisman. Temporal Temple Master paused for a moment and then said, I immediately understood that the ruler might be targeting you, so I used space-time to come here. Is that so? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and then said in surprise, Wuxin Lake? You are the Temple Master's good friend. Temporal Temple Master was the good friend that Star Palace Master invited to pick him up? This news surprised Jian Wushuang. Why are you surprised? Temporal Temple Master smiled. Actually, it's nothing. Star Palace Master is the sect master of the 7-star mysterious sect. Since our Temporal Temple and the 7-star mysterious sect are in the divine beginning realm, we naturally have some connections. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath. He had met the Heaven Ancestor when he was in the Star Palace. Since the Heaven Ancestor could stay in the Star Palace all year round, he naturally had a good relationship with the Star Palace. Temporal Temple Master and Palace Master Star Palace were also good friends, and it was obvious that they chose to stand on the Star Palace's side. This immediately caused many ideas to appear in Jian Wushuang's mind. Temple Master, you mentioned Devil Cloud Star Master to the two rulers just now. What sect does Devil Cloud Star belong to? Jian Wushuang asked again. This question? Temporal Temple Master pondered for a moment and said, This is extraordinary. I'll take you back to Star Palace first and then talk about it slowly. Okay. Jian Wushuang also nodded. He could also see that this so-called Devil Cloud Star was probably his most important enemy. Soon, the two of them started to return to Star Palace. With Temporal Temple Master leading the way, Jian Wushuang's speed was naturally many times faster. Just a year later, he had already walked out of Devil Smoke Valley and returned to Star Palace. Jian Wushuang stood alone in a magnificent palace in Star Palace. 3 figures slowly appeared in front of him. The 3 people standing on the far left were the Temporal Temple Master who had just brought him back to Star Palace. The one standing on the far right was a woodcutter wearing a simple black robe and a bamboo hat. This woodcutter was the Heaven Ancestor, Desolation Emperor, who had taught him how to master the destructive will. As for the person standing in the middle, he was dressed in a green Taoist robe. His hair and beard were white and he stood barefoot. He looked like an ordinary Taoist, but he was such a Taoist, however, he was qualified to stand in the middle of the 3 people. His invisible aura was obviously stronger than that of the Temporal Temple Master and the Heaven Ancestor. Seeing the Taoist in the middle, Jian Wushuang was shocked. Senior Xianxia, oh no, it's Palace Master. Jian Wushuang immediately bowed respectfully. That was right, The Taoist in the middle was Xianxia, who had helped him to the divine beginning realm. At the same time, he was the palace master of Star Palace. Moreover, the temporal temple master had personally admitted that Xianxia was one of the 3 master-level experts of the 7-star mysterious sect, the sect master of the 7-star mysterious sect. Haha, little guy, we finally meet again. Taoist Xianxia looked at Jian Wushuang with a gentle expression, as if he was basking in the sunshine. You disappeared in Devil Smoke Valley for almost 100,000 years. Even I thought you were dead. At that time, I was sad and disappointed, but fortunately, I survived and my strength increased so much. Haha, this is a big surprise. It seems that Xian was right about you. You flatter me, Jian Wushuang said humbly. In the face of 3 masters, all of whom were legendary figures in the divine beginning realm, Jian Wushuang would never be able to defeat them, no matter how talented he was, not a hint of arrogance. Little fellow, know why I 3 people want to see you at the same time today? Taoist Xianxia looked down. I don't know. Jian Wushuang shook his head. Actually, I didn't expect to see you so soon. I just didn't expect you to improve so quickly. In just 100,000 years, you've already reached the strongest level among Principles Masters. Moreover, you've already come into contact with Devil Cloud Star. Therefore, after careful discussion, the 3 of us decided to come to see you together. We'll tell you the whole story, including the battle that destroyed the 7-star mysterious sect and the biggest secret hidden in the divine beginning realm. Taoist Shen God's expression became serious. The biggest secret hidden in the divine beginning realm? Jian Wushuang was shocked. He raised his head and found that not only Taoist Xianxia, but also Temporal Temple Master and Desolation Emperor had grave expressions on their faces. Jian Wushuang could not help taking a deep breath. He had been a man for 2 lifetimes. From his last life, he knew that he had a huge mission on his shoulders. But what was the mission, what he was going to do, and the specific reason for the destruction of the 7-star mysterious sect? He also didn't know about the secrets hidden in the 3 great holy regions and the divine beginning realm. He only knew that he had to do his best to increase his strength and make himself stronger as much as possible. He longed for the day when he was qualified to know all of this. And now, this day had finally arrived. He was finally qualified to know all of this. Little guy, you've been in the universe battlefield for so long, and you have some understanding of the universe. How much do you know about the universe's star worlds? Taoist Xianxia asked. Star worlds? Jian Wushuang immediately replied, I only know that there are different levels of star worlds. For example, the divine beginning realm is a 3rd-grade star world, which is the most common one in the universe. A 3rd-grade star world will be counted as a chaos cycle from its birth to its self-collapse. Yes, what you know is common knowledge in the universe. However, there is one thing that you don't know, which is that there is an initial stage in the process of the birth of any astral world. We call this stage the initial stage. Taoist Xianxia slowly explained. The initial stage is equivalent to a baby born a month before we humans are born. The body has not fully grown. At this stage, any bit of wind or rain can cause the baby to die or be severely injured. The same is true for the initial stage of the astral world. At that stage, the astral world hasn't started to give birth to any living beings. At most, it's just an embryo. The embryo is still very fragile. At this time, if an expert with a certain level of strength discovered the embryo, he or she would destroy it with a wave of his or her hand. This would cause the astral world to vanish before it started to give birth. The initial stage? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. He said directly, even if a powerful cultivator found the embryo of the astral world, he would not be so bored as to destroy it. After all, destroying an astral world is not beneficial to him. You're right. Taoist Xianxia nodded. Under normal circumstances, no one would be so bored as to deliberately destroy an astral world embryo. This is because the astral world was born by the universe itself. Forcibly destroying an astral world embryo can be said to be a public confrontation with the laws of the universe. Although they wouldn't be punished at the time, in the future, their cultivation would more or less be hindered by the laws of the universe, and the gains wouldn't make up for the losses. However, the experts who found the astral world embryo by chance will not destroy it, but they can take it by force, the Taoist Xianxia said. Take it by force? Jian Wushuang was shocked. How is that possible? This is a huge astral world. How can we take it by force? It's very simple, possession, the Taoist Xianxia said. You have to know that in the universe, an astral world is actually equivalent to a large life, and the consciousness of this life is the will of the heavenly Tao. The will of the heavenly Tao represents the consciousness of the astral world. Under normal circumstances, it has no feelings or thoughts, only knowing to follow the operation of the universal laws and maintain the circulation of the heavenly Tao. If the will of the heavenly Tao had already grown up, it would have formed a connection with the universal laws. Naturally, no one could shake it. However, in the initial stage, it's just an embryonic astral world. The will of heavenly Tao is too weak. If an expert comes to possess it, there is a certain possibility that the possession will succeed. Once the possession is successful, the will of heavenly Tao, which only knows how to operate according to the laws of the universe, will be directly erased. Instead, the cultivator's own consciousness will become the will of heavenly Tao in this astral world and control everything. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang's heart was in turmoil. The heavenly will of an astral world had no thoughts and no feelings. But the heavenly will of the divine beginning realm was obviously not like that. In other words, the heavenly will of the divine beginning realm is the consciousness of a cultivator. Was the divine beginning realm possessed by someone when it was still in its embryonic stage? Jian Wushuang said in a deep voice. Yes, that's right. Taoist Xianxia nodded slightly. Little guy, you should be able to tell that if the will of the heavenly Tao in the divine beginning realm doesn't have feelings or thoughts, then it's impossible for it to support the three saint realms. To put it bluntly, the three saint realms exist to allow it to better control the divine beginning realm. The three masters of the saint realm are the representatives of the will of the heavenly Tao in the divine beginning realm. But look at the other star realms around this territory. There's no such thing. Temporal Temple Master said. Jian Wushuang's heart sank. It was true that he had roamed the universe battlefield for a period of time, but he had some understanding of this territory. As far as he knew, the other astral worlds in this territory were completely dominated by the cultivators themselves. There was no heavenly will at all. The heavenly will of the astral world was just to maintain the astral world's self-operation. Forcibly destroying an astral world embryo not only doesn't bring any benefits, but it will also be restricted by the universal laws in the future. Is it allowed by the universal laws to forcefully possess an astral world and take it as his own? Jian Wushuang frowned and said, No, forcibly possessing an astral world in the embryo will be punished by the universal laws in the future. Although it's not as strong as forcibly destroying an astral world embryo, possessing an astral world is not without benefits. On the contrary, it has incredible benefits, Taoist Xianxia said. Oh, Jian Wushuang was surprised. Little guy, you should know that the process of an astral world, even if it's only the lowest level 3 astral world, from the moment it's born to its slow growth to its self-destruction, is all related to the laws of the universe. If a cultivator possesses an astral world and it becomes the will of the heavenly Tao of this astral world, he can observe the evolution of the astral world from the closest distance, and he can also activate the unfathomable laws of the universe. This is a dream for any cultivator. Not to mention the chaos ruler, even legendary supreme existences yearn for it, Taoist Xianxia said. A supreme being? Jian Wushuang's expression changed, and he deliberately looked puzzled. A supreme being is a supreme expert who is above a ruler. He is a top figure in the entire vast universe. You haven't become a real ruler, so you may not have heard of this level, the heaven ancestor said. Is that so? Jian Wushuang was relieved, but he secretly smiled. In fact, he knew about the supreme being. When he met the Golden War god, Wind Demon, in that special space, he knew about the existence of the supreme being. Wind Demon was a supreme being, not to mention the master of planet Lingyun. However, he did not want others to know about his encounter. Therefore, when Taoist Xianxia mentioned the supreme being, he deliberately showed a puzzled look. Little guy, now you understand why someone would choose to possess an astral world rather than bear the conflict of the universal laws. Right? Taoist Xianxia smiled faintly. To put it bluntly, the benefits of possessing an astral world are so great that he is willing to bear the conflict of the universal laws. I see. Jian Wushuang understood. Is the person who possessed the divine beginning realm that Devil Cloud Star Master? Yes, it's him. Taoist Xianxia nodded slightly. At the mention of the Devil Cloud Star Master's name, the three rulers' expressions turned extremely cold. The Devil Cloud Star Master is the willpower of the divine beginning realm. We have paid a heavy price over the years and have long investigated the background of this Devil Cloud Star Master. Taoist Xianxia continued to explain. Devil Cloud Star is an incomparably mature second-grade astral world that has long since matured. In the entire astral world, there are no less than dozens of ruler-level experts, and they are extremely powerful. However, because Devil Cloud Star is quite far away from our territory, even a ruler-level expert would need at least tens of thousands of years to reach our territory at the fastest speed. Thus, under normal circumstances, Devil Cloud Star is unable to touch our territory. There are always exceptions. Our divine beginning realm just happened to encounter this accident. At that time, there was a ruler in Devil Cloud Star who had offended many experts and was forced into a desperate situation. Because he couldn't stay in Devil Cloud Star any longer, he chose to wander around. This wandering came to our territory, and coincidentally, he discovered the embryonic state of the divine beginning realm. You have to know that the astral world within the embryo is very well hidden. In addition, the void of the universe is vast and boundless. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to encounter it at all. And this ruler who escaped from the Devil Cloud Star just had to be lucky. Shit luck. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. It's just shit luck. It's really great luck. After all, the universe law knows that the embryonic stage is the most fragile during the process of nurturing the astral world, so it's also the most well-protected. Ordinary cultivators, even if they spend a long time wandering in the universe, wouldn't be able to encounter such an astral world embryo. According to the rumors, there are some incredibly powerful autarch-level rulers who would go to great lengths to find an astral world embryo like this in order to increase their power. Autarch-level experts are far more skilled than rulers, but even so, they are often unable to find an astral world embryo like this even after hundreds or thousands of chaos cycles. In the vast universe, if an astral world embryo is found anywhere, countless experts will immediately come to fight for it. This fight is no less than a feast for experts. You can imagine how lucky you are to find such an astral world embryo, said Taoist Xianxia. Hearing Taoist Xianxia's words, Jian Wushuang could not help but be shocked. If what Taoist Xianxia said was true, even an expert at the supreme level could not find an embryo of an astral world even after searching for hundreds or thousands of chaos cycles in the universe void. Then the ruler who was forced to come out of the demonic cloud planet. It was indeed a stroke of good luck to find the divine beginning realm, which was in the embryonic stage in this territory. Not only is this ruler from Devil Cloud Star extremely lucky, but he is also very bold. After all, even in the embryonic stage of the astral world, it is extremely difficult for ordinary experts to possess it at its most vulnerable period. Under normal circumstances, only rulers have the possibility of possessing the astral world. Moreover, the success rate of possession is also very low. It is already considered good if one out of dozens of rulers succeeds in possession. However, once the possession fails, they will immediately suffer a backlash. Their souls will be destroyed and they will die. Therefore, if a ruler forcefully tries to possess the embryonic stage of the astral world, he will still have a slim chance of survival. In fact, it might even be better than that. As for the ruler who left Devil Cloud Star, he wandered in the universe void because he had no other choice. Now that he finally encountered an embryonic astral world, he tried to possess it even though he knew there was a slim chance of survival. In the end, he really succeeded, Taoist Xianxia said. He could not help clenching his hands. Jian Wushuang was also secretly amazed. He had a little more respect for the ruler who had run away from Devil Cloud Star. Under the premise that he was wise enough to risk his life he took the risk to possess the ruler. In the end, he succeeded. Although the ruler was his enemy, his luck, boldness, and decisiveness were still worthy of respect. After he took over the divine beginning realm, his strength soared and reached a new level in a very short time. Then he left a trace of his consciousness in the divine beginning realm, and his original body returned to the Devil Cloud Star. After returning to the Devil Cloud Star, he immediately defeated many of his former enemies with absolute strength. He even swept across the entire Devil Cloud Star world and made the entire Devil Cloud Star submit to him. He also became the Devil Cloud Star Master, Taoist Xianxia said. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang smacked his lips. This was because at the beginning, this person was just a ruler who could not survive in the Devil Cloud Star and was forced to leave. He was a wanderer in the universe void. Such a ruler's strength was definitely not that strong, however, because he possessed the divine beginning realm. His strength had suddenly grown to the point of sweeping across the entire Devil Cloud Star. It was clear how much help a cultivator would receive if he took over an astral world. What happened after that? Since the Star Master had already taken over the divine beginning realm and obtained what he wanted, why did he attack the 7-star mysterious sect? Jian Wushuang asked. He didn't want to attack the 7-star mysterious sect in the beginning. After all, although he took over the divine beginning realm, what he needed was the process of the divine beginning realm's evolution. During this process, he could communicate with the laws of the universe and improve his strength by observing the complete evolution of an astral world. As for the internal affairs of the divine beginning realm, it has nothing to do with him. Logically speaking, he should be able to maintain the operation of the divine beginning realm like the normal will of the heavenly Tao. As for the many cultivators in the divine beginning realm, it doesn't matter whether he is an outsider or not. As long as the will of the heavenly Tao works normally, the cultivators in the divine beginning realm can accept him even if he created the 3 saint realms to be his spokesperson. However, the Devil Cloud Star Master is too ambitious. Taoist Xianxia said in a low voice. Ambitious? Jian Wushuang was confused. He is ambitious. To be exact, he is too impatient. Of course, it is also possible that he is at the most critical stage of cultivation. For example, he is only 1 step away from becoming a supreme being. He paused. Taoist Xianxia continued. He longed to break through to become a supreme being as soon as possible. For this reason, he spared no effort. Therefore, he forcefully accelerated the evolution of the heavenly Tao in the divine beginning realm. Speed up the evolution of the heavenly Tao by force? How? Jian Wushuang was surprised. It's simple. He didn't hesitate to squeeze the potential of the divine beginning realm and did everything he could to make the divine beginning realm collapse. Naturally, he could experience the evolution of the astral world earlier so that he could gain more earlier. However, the damage to the divine beginning realm would be too great, Taoist Xianxia said. Jian Wushuang's expression turned solemn. Although he did not know what the consequences would be for the divine beginning realm, it was not a good thing for the divine beginning realm to accelerate the evolution of the divine beginning realm and squeeze its potential. To speed up the evolution of the divine beginning realm and squeeze it, it is to push the seedling to grow, and it is the most extreme way to push the seedling to grow. It is like a person who has a lifespan of 100 years forcibly increasing his growth speed and squeezing his potential. In the end, although he has lived his whole life, he may only live for 50 years or even 30 years or 20 years. Jian Wushuang was shocked. A person who could live for 100 years could only live for 20 to 30 years after forcefully accelerating his growth rate? In other words, if Devil Cloud Star Master does this, his lifespan in the divine beginning realm will be extremely short, and he won't be able to live for 1 chaos cycle at all? Jian Wushuang asked in surprise. Not only that, because the potential of the divine beginning realm has been greatly exploited, the number of geniuses and experts born in the divine beginning realm in the latter half of the process will be less and less. At most, it will be comparable to other level 3-star worlds, or even only 1/3 of the amount, said the Taoist Xianxia. Is that so? Jian Wushuang suddenly understood. As I said before, if the Devil Cloud Star Master had allowed the divine beginning realm to operate according to the laws of the universe after he took over the divine beginning realm, the cultivators of the divine beginning realm would not have any objections. However, for his own selfish reasons, he did not hesitate to exploit the potential of the divine beginning realm, and his strong point was to accelerate the evolution of the divine beginning realm. The damage caused to the divine beginning realm was unimaginable. The cultivators of the divine beginning realm would naturally not be happy to see this. If you don't like it, the resistance will begin, Taoist Xianxia said solemnly. The 7-star mysterious sect was already recognized as the #1 force in the divine beginning realm. Naturally, the resistance began with the 7-star mysterious sect. However, the divine beginning realm was still in the initial stage of evolution. Its foundation was weak and its overall strength was weak. It could not pose any threat to Devil Cloud Star Master until Xianxia attacked. Master! Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. Yes, it's your master Xianxia. Taoist Ascension looked at Jian Wushuang and smiled. Your master Xianxia is the first perfect level life form born in the divine beginning realm. To be honest, it's extremely difficult to give birth to a perfect level life form even in a first-class astral world. Perhaps it's because the Devil Cloud Star Master squeezed too much of his potential that the cultivation environment in the divine beginning realm for a period of time has even exceeded that of a first-class astral world. It was also at that time that the divine beginning realm gave birth to several experts at the ruler realm, and a super genius like Deshursan appeared. Your master Xianxia was also born in that era. Originally, Devil Cloud Star Master did not pay much attention to the many experts born in the divine beginning realm, even if there were a few more rulers. After all, these rulers could hardly threaten him. However, when Xianxia appeared and gradually rose to power, Devil Cloud Star Master sensed some threats. Why? Jian Wushuang was puzzled. Why can't so many rulers threaten the Star Master but Master can? Is it because he is a cultivator at the perfect life level? Yes, because he is a cultivator at the perfect life level. Taoist Xianxia smiled. Little guy, I just told you that a ruler realm expert wants to possess a star world. If he fails, his soul will be destroyed on the spot. In other words, to possess a star world, the most important thing is to rely on the soul. Only a strong and powerful soul power can successfully take over an astral world. Moreover, this is only in the embryonic stage. However, because of the possession of the Devil Cloud Star Master, the divine beginning realm has already passed the initial stage and is now in the complete stage. At this time, even if a supreme-level expert forcibly takes over an astral world, he would not be able to shake the Devil Cloud Star Master at all. However, a perfect life-level cultivator is an exception. Little guy, you're also a cultivator at the perfect life level. Can't you guess the reason? Taoist Xianxia looked at Jian Wushuang. It's the soul of a cultivator at the perfect life level. It's different from the others. Jian Wushuang exclaimed. Hearing this exclamation, not only Taoist Xianxia, but the Temporal Temple Master and the Heaven Ancestor also laughed. Although they were not perfect life-level cultivators, they knew some of the mysteries of the perfect life level. Jian Wushuang himself was the owner of the perfect life level, so he was even clearer. He knew that a perfect life-level cultivator had almost no weaknesses, and the most invincible one was the soul. The soul of a cultivator at the level of a perfect being was unbreakable. Even if his soul was destroyed on the spot and completely destroyed, he could easily recover to the peak by relying on his divine power in the next second, and this kind of recovery also consumed very little of his divine power. In other words, no matter who it was absolutely impossible to kill a cultivator at the level of a perfect being from the aspect of the soul. And to possess an astral world depended on the power of the soul. For an ordinary ruler or even a paragon to forcibly possess an astral world that had already grown up was simply courting death. However, a cultivator at the level of a perfect being was different. He could do so without any scruples. If he failed once, he would try 10 times. If he failed 10 times, he would try 100 times or 1,000 times. Even if the chances of him succeeding were slim, he would succeed one time after another. I understand now. I finally understand why my master can threaten the Star Master. I also understand that the 3 Saint Realms will kill me at all costs when they know of my existence. Once I grow up, I can indeed deal a fatal blow to the Star Master, which means that the heaven's will of the divine beginning realm will be dealt a fatal blow. Jian Wushuang said solemnly. Yes, that's right. Taoist Xianxia nodded as well. However, your current level of power is still a bit too weak. Although your battle power is close to that of a ruler, your level of power is only at the level of a saint. A saint isn't even qualified to possess the divine beginning realm. Even if you break through to become a principles master in the future, your master, Xianyi, was also a principles master in the past. He tried to possess the divine beginning realm 1,000,000 times, but he failed. Therefore, he came to the conclusion that even a perfect life-level cultivator must reach the ruler realm before they are qualified to refine the divine beginning realm. Must I reach the ruler realm? Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. For the current him, the principles master realm might be close, but the ruler realm was too far away. Although his current battle power was close to that of a ruler, and once he broke through to become a principles master, his battle power would definitely be comparable to that of a ruler. However, he was still very far away from truly becoming a ruler. You have to become a ruler. Otherwise, you won't even have to try, Taoist Xianxia said in a low voice. Back then, your master was at the level of a principles master, and he attempted to possess someone. He attempted to possess someone 1,000,000 times, but in the end, he still failed. However, this insane attempt to possess someone completely terrified the Devil Cloud Star sect. That Devil Cloud Star master was worried that your master would break through to become a ruler, which was why he immediately acted. He sent a total of 12 ruler realm experts from Devil Cloud, and even his true body personally acted. With lightning speed, he annihilated the 7-star mysterious sect and killed your master. Jian Wushuang's heart trembled. Only now did he fully understand the reason for the true destruction of the 7-star mysterious sect. Indeed, the 7-star mysterious sect was destroyed because of Xianyi. It was Xianyi who made the Devil Cloud Star master feel a great threat and wanted to kill him. The 7-star mysterious sect was also wiped out by the Devil Cloud Star master because they tried their best to protect it. There was nothing we could do. At that time, the foundation of the divine beginning realm was too thin. In front of the Devil Cloud Star master's peerless strength, there was no room for struggle at all. Thus, when the Devil Cloud Star master gave the order, the 4 great divine races and the 8 directions celestial sect immediately responded. Although these sects and factions didn't know the secret of the Devil Cloud Star master, the difference in strength was too great. They could only form a battle team like this. When that battle really broke out, our 7-star mysterious sect had already predicted the final outcome. That's why when we noticed the movements of the Devil Cloud Star master, we immediately left behind many backup plans. Taoist Xianxia slowly explained. First, the 3 great freedom alliances did not participate in this battle. After all, everyone in the divine beginning realm knows that Xianyi is a member of the 7-star mysterious sect. The 7-star mysterious sect will not be able to escape this disaster, and it is unavoidable. However, the 3 great freedom alliances can only not participate in this battle and not stand on the 7-star mysterious sect's side. Then, the Devil Cloud Star Master should not attack the 3 great freedom alliances. Secondly, Xianyi immediately prepared a plan to rise up in the future. This plan was very crazy. At that time, everyone thought that it was almost impossible to succeed. However, because Devil Cloud Star acted too suddenly and completely sealed off the entire divine beginning realm, Xianyi was no longer able to escape. Although the chances of success of this plan were very slim, it was still a glimmer of hope. Fortunately, he made the right bet. Countless cultivators in the 7-star divine realm sacrificed their lives to set up the formation for him. Taoist Xianxia laughed. Formation? Palace Master, are you talking about the formation that has been sealing the 7-star divine realm? Jian Wushuang asked in a deep voice. After the battle, the 7-star divine realm was completely sealed by the formation. In his previous life, Jian Wushuang was born in the sealed divine realm, where he met the consciousness left behind by his master, Xianyi. After obtaining a great opportunity, his master finally acted and reincarnated into the divine beginning realm. Although he had been in the divine beginning realm for a long time, deep in his heart, the sealed heaven and earth, the 7-star divine realm, or the eternal chaotic world, was his real home. Apart from the formation, what other formation is there? Taoist Xianxia smiled. That grand formation was something I acquired by chance from the cosmic battlefield. It was of an extremely high level, and it was executed by several of us rulers at the same time. In addition, countless cultivators in the 7-star divine realm sacrificed their lives to create this blood essence power, which was why it was set up. Once this formation was set up, even planet Devil Cloud Star Master wouldn't be able to break it open. After all, although his power is monstrous, and the heavenly Daos of the divine beginning realm have always been within his control, the unseen laws of the universe have caused his true body to be restricted by his power in the divine beginning realm. He wouldn't be able to unleash his full power, and he wouldn't be able to break open this grand formation at all. This left us with hope of rising to power. You know what happened next? Even though your master, Xianxia, died, the consciousness he left behind in the sealed 7-star divine realm spent countless years and effort to perfect the technique again and again. Finally, you were born. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. He knew that his master had sacrificed too much for him to obtain the perfect chaotic creature. He had nurtured the green fire world with his own blood essence and tried step by step. Finally, he appeared. Although he succeeded in inheriting his master's perfect life in the end, he had put in a lot of effort in the process. However, it was mainly because his master had prepared too much for him. After you were born, everything went according to plan. He borrowed the opportunity of the 3 great Saint Realm Masters to barely open the sealed heaven and earth and sent you into reincarnation to the divine beginning realm. In fact, the reason why the 3 great Saint Realm Masters were able to open the passage was because we helped them in the dark. As soon as you were born, I came to pick you up. As for the rest of your growth, it was all done by you, step by step, until today. At this point, Taoist Xianxia stopped and looked at Jian Wushuang. Temporal Temple Master and Heaven Ancestor also stared at Jian Wushuang. There was a trace of joy in their eyes. Jian Wushuang did not know that from the moment he was born in the divine beginning realm, his every move and his growth had been seen by the 3 of them. They had been watching Jian Wushuang and his growth. However, other than the appearance of Taoist Xianxia, the Temporal Temple Master and the Heaven Ancestor had been in the dark. Even if they had helped him along the way, they had never told him the specific reason. It was not until now that the 3 of them appeared in front of Jian Wushuang and told him everything, that Jian Wushuang finally understood. Now I finally understand why the Temple Master treated me so well before, Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. Temporal Temple Master, when he was in the Temporal Temple, he personally taught him for 300 years and gave him a life-saving token. On Saha Island, Temporal Temple Master came to his rescue personally. At that time, Temporal Temple Master was so good to him that many people were puzzled. Jian Wushuang himself was the same. Temporal Temple Master was the same. So was the Heaven Ancestor, and so was the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, who had never shown his face. After all, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master was the first to give Jian Wushuang an opportunity. He had never entered the core level of the Heaven-Cleaving Union, but the Heaven-Cleaving Union made an exception and allowed him to enter the Heaven-Cleaving Secret Realm. It was something that countless genius disciples of the Heaven-Cleaving Union yearned for. Not only that, but the 3 Palace Masters of the Heaven-Cleaving Union had also given him a lot of benefits, such as the token of the 2 Palace Masters and the token containing his doppelganger that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master had personally refined. Even the most outstanding and potential geniuses in the Heaven-Cleaving Union would not receive such treatment. However, Jian Wushuang, an outsider, did. There was also the Heaven Ancestor. Although the Heaven Ancestor Taoist sect had not given him much help when he was in the divine beginning realm, when he came to the universe battlefield and came to the Star Palace, the Heaven Ancestor had met him in person. Afterwards, he had personally taught him axe techniques, given him opportunities, and allowed him to directly grasp the will of destruction, allowing him to completely comprehend the principles of destruction. All of this was indirectly helping him. Phew! Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and bowed solemnly. Thank you. After knowing everything, Jian Wushuang knew that he had received a great favor from the people in front of him. Jian Wushuang had to hurry up and remember this favor. Haha, little guy, you don't have to thank us. After all, we are helping ourselves and the entire divine beginning realm. Although the divine beginning realm has reached the middle stage due to the accelerated evolution of the Star Master, as long as you can take it back, the divine beginning realm can still be saved, Taoist Xianxia said seriously. Moreover, it's different from the last battle. Our divine beginning realm's foundation was too weak, and the arrival of the Devil Cloud Star Master and his subordinates was too sudden. As a result, we didn't have much power to resist. However, it's different this time. From the end of that battle until now, a long, long time has passed. Even I can't remember how long it has been. And from the end of that battle, we've started to make plans for today. We've been preparing and waiting for the right time. Even now, the power we have in our hands is still not comparable to Devil Cloud Star, let alone fighting him head-on. But if Devil Cloud Star Master comes again, our divine beginning realm will not be powerless to resist. We are even confident that we can protect ourselves. Protect ourselves? Jian Wushuang was stunned. He did not expect that even after preparing for so many years. Taoist Xianxia and the others could only barely protect themselves. It's already good enough that we can barely protect ourselves. At least this time we won't be completely defeated. As long as we can protect ourselves, we will be able to counterattack. For us, the biggest counterattack is nothing more than breaking through to the ruler realm and then taking over the divine beginning realm again. Taoist Xianxia's voice was solemn. Once you take over the divine beginning realm again, the divine beginning realm will be under your control. At that time, as long as the experts from the outside world enter the divine beginning realm, you can try your best to suppress their strength to an extremely low level. On the other hand, you can choose not to suppress the local experts like us. Under this situation, the people from Devil Cloud Star will not dare to step into our divine beginning realm again. Yes, as long as you can take back the divine beginning realm, we will win this battle. Temporal Temple Master nodded heavily. That's true. However, if I want to take back the divine beginning realm, I have to be at least at the level of a ruler. But now I'm far from the ruler realm. Jian Wushuang frowned. A ruler had to completely comprehend the four principles, and he had to completely fuse the four principles. However, he had only comprehended 3 principles, and if he fused them together, he would only be able to fuse 2. He was still far from breaking through to become a ruler. Furthermore, he was a cultivator at the level of a perfect being, and the level of a perfect being was limited by the principles of the universe. The conditions for breaking through might be much more difficult than ordinary cultivators. For example, from the immortal saint to the principles master, an ordinary immortal saint could make a breakthrough as long as he completely comprehended one principle and grasped a part of the power of his will. However, he had already comprehended 3 principles and merged 2 principles, but there was still no sign of a breakthrough. Therefore, Jian Wushuang was worried that after he became a principles master, it would be much more difficult for him to break through to the ruler realm than for ordinary cultivators. You're still far from the ruler realm, so you should try your best to improve your strength. What we need to do is to do our best to help you improve your strength. Taoist Xianxia said in a low voice, "Little guy, you've made it clear. You know how important you are to us, so you don't need to be polite or pretentious. If you need anything that can help you improve your strength, just tell us. We'll do our best to help you. Yes, not only in terms of cultivation, but also all kinds of treasures and supreme treasures. If you need anything, you can tell us directly." Temporal Temple Master also nodded. As for the Heaven Ancestor, he was also very determined. The 3 of them knew that Jian Wushuang was the only one who could save the divine beginning realm from danger. What Jian Wushuang needed to do was to improve his strength as much as possible and reach the ruler realm as soon as possible. What they needed to do, of course, was to help Jian Wushuang become a ruler. As long as Jian Wushuang could become a ruler as soon as possible, they would do anything. Taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang stopped being unreasonable and said directly, "Seniors, I do need something now. Speak." Taoist Xianxia looked over. "First of all, there are some rare treasures. Here is the list. Take a look first." Jian Wushuang took out a list of treasures. The treasures on the list were necessary for him to cultivate the first level of the supreme eternal celestial body. Although there were only 6 of them, they were extremely rare. Before he obtained the supreme eternal celestial body, Jian Wushuang had never even heard of these 6 treasures. Therefore, although he took out the list of 6 treasures, he did not know if Taoist Xianxia and the others could collect all of them. Sure enough, after seeing the 6 treasures on the list, Taoist Xianxia, Temporal Temple Master, and Heaven Ancestors' expressions changed immediately. Little guy, each of the treasures on the list is indeed extremely rare. There are none in my star palace. Even including the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, Temporal Temple, and Heaven Ancestor Taoist sect, there are only 2 of them. Taoist Xianxia sighed softly. Is there no way to collect all of them? Jian Wushuang frowned. That's not the case. Taoist Xianxia changed the topic. We already have 2 of the 6 treasures. We know where to get 3 of the remaining 4 treasures, and we are confident that we can get them. The last one, the Netherfire Blood Crystal, is a bit troublesome. I've heard that someone has obtained the Netherfire Blood Crystal, but it has been tens of millions of years. I don't know whether the news is true or not. Even if it is true, I can't confirm who has it. However, I can contact the experts who might get the Netherfire Blood Crystal. I'll get it no matter what the price is, the Heaven Ancestor said in a deep voice. How long will it take? Jian Wushuang asked. Within 100 years, the Heaven Ancestor said. The key is to find out who has the Netherfire Blood Crystal. As long as we can confirm it, it'll be easy. We can think of other ways to exchange for it. If the other party doesn't agree, then we'll use force. No matter what, there will be a result within 100 years. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. He was willing to wait for 100 years. In addition to the treasures on this list, I also need an offensive magic weapon, one above the Pinnacle Universe Supreme Treasure, Jian Wushuang said. A magic weapon? Taoist Xianxia and the other 2 looked at each other in dismay. They were not surprised by this request. They all knew that the magic weapon Jian Wushuang used before was only at the Advanced Universe Supreme Treasure level. Even if he killed 9-Sword Demon Master and obtained the Supreme Treasure in his hands, it would only be a top-tier Universe Supreme Treasure magic weapon. Top-tier Universe True Treasures. For Principal's Masters, they were indeed rare treasures. However, Jian Wushuang's strength had already exceeded the scope of Principal's Masters, and he had already begun to make contact with rulers. A top-tier Universe True Treasure alone was definitely not enough. It's easy to use a magic weapon. There's a top-tier Universe True Treasure magic sword in my Star Palace True Treasure Vault that I can give you directly. However, it's only a top-tier Universe True Treasure. Is it enough? Taoist Xianxia said with great interest. Jian Wushuang was stunned. Was he going to use a Pinnacle Universe Supreme Treasure? Was Taoist Xianxia going to give him a Pinnacle Universe Supreme Treasure? As if seeing through Jian Wushuang's thoughts, Taoist Xianxia smiled. In fact, I have been paying attention to the most powerful Supreme Treasure magic weapon that is suitable for you. After all, you will grow up sooner or later, and when you grow up, you will definitely need to use a suitable and powerful Supreme Treasure. However, it's a Supreme Treasure after all, and it's too precious. Most rulers in this territory don't have a Supreme Treasure with them. As for the sword-type Supreme Treasure that is suitable for you, I know that a person has one and he doesn't need it, so we can exchange it with him. Oh! Jian Wushuang's eyes suddenly lit up. Don't be happy too early. I just said that there is a chance and it is very small. Because the ruler who has the sword-type Supreme Treasure is not only extremely powerful, but also much stronger than the 3 of us. He is also the leader of a major force and has a very high status. Although he has the most powerful sword-type Supreme Treasure, he has never taken it out to exchange for other treasures. He has left it for his juniors. If we want to exchange for it with him, we will definitely have to take out something that will move his heart. However, the main point is that in this territory, there aren't many treasures that can move him. Taoist Xianxia sighed softly. The Temporal Temple Master and the Heaven Ancestor obviously knew who the ruler was. They both looked a little helpless. They were very clear about his strength and status. It could be said that the ruler was one of the most powerful people in this territory. It was not easy to impress such a super existence with treasures in exchange for the strongest sword-type magic weapon in his hand. It was indeed not easy. There's no need to rush this Supreme Treasure magic weapon. It's enough for me to have a Supreme Universe Supreme Treasure magic weapon now. As for the Supreme Treasure magic weapon, I'll think of a way later, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Well, that's it for now. You can go to the Supreme Treasure Vault and use the Supreme Treasure first. Taoist Xianxia nodded. The attack magic weapon can be taken care of temporarily. As for the Supreme Treasure armor, I see that the armor you're wearing now is of a high level. Taoist Xianxia looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang could not help but smile. I have indeed gained a lot during my years in Devil Smoke Valley. This Supreme Treasure armor is one of them. Without this armor, my battle strength would never have exceeded that of an expert at the pinnacle of the sixth realm. What he said was the truth. The reason why he was so powerful and was able to sweep through the pinnacle of the 6 levels was largely because of the tremendous power that the Blood Demon Cave armor had given him, which made him much more powerful than the average pinnacle of the 6 levels. Without the Blood Demon Cave armor, he would be very powerful, but at most, he would only be comparable to the average pinnacle of the 6 levels. It would be impossible for him to sweep through the pinnacle of the 6 levels. It's already good enough to have a top-tier Supreme Treasure armor. Even the few of us only have this level of Supreme Treasure armor. As for the Supreme Treasure armor, we don't have it, so we can't get it for you. Taoist Xianxia spread out his hands and said. Jian Wushuang smiled. It was understandable. The Supreme Treasure armor in terms of attack alone was extremely precious, and the Supreme Treasure armor was something that many rulers would go crazy over. There were probably only a few such Supreme Treasure armors in this territory. All of them were in the hands of the most terrifying experts. It was too difficult for Star Palace to get one. However, Jian Wushuang was not in a hurry. After all, although he did not have such a supreme treasure now, he must not forget that the 3 battlefields were a huge treasure trove in front of them. There were countless supreme treasures and many opportunities. Who knew if he would be lucky enough to get 1 or 2 of them in the future? The problem of the supreme treasures has been temporarily solved. What else do you need? Taoist Xianxia looked over. I still need some things that can help me integrate the destruction principles, especially the destruction principles, space-time, and reincarnation principles. The more treasures I can use for reference, the better, Jian Wushuang said solemnly. Oh, are you finally going to integrate the 3 rules? Temporal Temple Master said slowly. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. Before, I had only grasped the destruction rules, so I couldn't integrate them with the other 2 rules. But after being trapped in the special space-time in Devil Smoke Valley for nearly 100,000 years, I've made some progress in the principles. If I integrate them now, I won't be able to do so. But as long as I have some time and some treasures that I can use for reference, I should be able to integrate the 3 principles. Once all 3 principles are fused, I'll be able to break through and become a principles master. Jian Wushuang could not help holding his hands. Principles master. Under normal circumstances, he should have broken through a long time ago, but because he was a perfect being, he had been stuck there. He had been working hard before, but he was still far from fusing the 3 principles. Now, he was close to fusing the 3 principles. These things are quite easy to deal with. Taoist Shen God smiled. How about this? I'll give the order. From today onwards, you will be the young palace master of our Star Palace. Your position in the Star Palace will be second only to mine. In addition, you can use any of the resources in the Star Palace as long as they are of use to you. You don't have to pay a price for them. For example, you can use all the supreme treasures in the Supreme Treasure Vault as long as you think you can use them. You don't have to use contribution points to exchange for them. You can also go to the Supreme Treasure Vault to look for the things you just mentioned that can only be used for reference. You should be able to find them. Thank you, Palace Master. Jian Wushuang was pleasantly surprised. As the young Palace Master, he could use all the resources in Star Palace at will. Such treatment. However, Jian Wushuang also understood that he had gained a lot, but he would have to pay more in the future. He was the only one who could save the Divine Beginning Realm. His growth was crucial to the Divine Beginning Realm. That was why Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and the Heaven Ancestor had helped him so gratuitously. Now that he had received their benefits, he had to complete his mission. His responsibility was very great. Do you need anything else? Taoist Shen God continued to ask. Not for the time being, Jian Wushuang said. The things he had just mentioned were helpful to his cultivation or strength. At the moment, he only needed these things to improve his strength. As for other things, he would talk about them later. Well, then you should cultivate well and break through to become a principles master as soon as possible. When you become a principles master, you can open the holy region that has been sealed all this time. Taoist Shen God said with a smile. Open the seal? Jian Wushuang was stunned. But then he said excitedly, Palace Master? Who are you? As long as I break through to become a principles master, I can open the seal, enter the 7-star divine realm, and return to my hometown. His hometown. The eternal chaotic world. The green fire world. He had too many relatives there. His parents, his brothers, and his good friends were all there. In this life, although he also had parents and brothers, in terms of feelings they were slightly worse. In the past, countless cultivators in the 7-star divine realm sacrificed their lives to seal the 7-star divine realm. The seal was very strong, and even several rulers working together could not break it. However, the seal was just to leave a way out for the 7-star mysterious sect and the divine beginning realm, and a glimmer of hope. The seal was led by Xian Yi, who left some special means on the seal. This means was specially reserved for you. When you're weak, you can't break the seals. But when you reach the level of a principles master, your strength shouldn't be weaker than Xian Yi at his peak. The divine beginning realm has the ability to fight with Devil Cloudstar again. At this time, you can break the seals and wake up the experts left by the 7-star mysterious sect and return to the divine beginning realm. Taoist Shen God said. Is that so? Jian Wushuang could not help but shake his hands. Not only that, in order to ensure that the seal is safe, one of the 3 freedom alliances, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, is also the strongest among us. He has been guarding around the seal all year round and has been paying attention to everything inside. When you break the seal, you will be able to see him for real, Taoist Shen God said. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master? Jian Wushuang thought to himself. He had used a token to guide a consciousness clone of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master on the Saha Island. At that time, a Saint Realm Master had mentioned that the original body of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master had been guarding a certain place. He had not left for hundreds of millions of years. Now it seemed that the place that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master was guarding was the place where the heavy seal was. For such a long time, he had not left for even half a step. Countless cultivators in the 7-star divine realm would have to remember the favor of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master. After taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang slowly bowed to the 3 people in front of him. Seniors, I will do my best to live up to your expectations. No, there are also my master, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, the countless cultivators who risked their lives to set up the Great Formation, and the millions of lives in the divine beginning realm. Go! Taoist Shen God smiled and waved his hand. Jian Wushuang turned and left. In the palace, Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and the Heaven Ancestor were still standing together. They looked at each other with a smile on their faces. We have prepared for so many years for this little guy. I hope this little guy will not forget our disappointment. After all, the divine beginning realm cannot accept another failure. Taoist Shen God sighed. Yes, the last defeat had left the divine beginning realm riddled with holes, but there were still some things left. There was also time for them to make sufficient preparations before coming back. However, if they were to experience another defeat like that, not to mention that the divine beginning realm had reached the middle stage of its lifespan, they would not have enough time to prepare for so many years. There was probably no one who could change everything. Jian Wushuang was able to appear because of Xian Yi's endless years of hard work and effort, as well as that era, which happened to be a stage where all the potential of the divine beginning realm was completely exploited. In addition to that, he was extremely lucky. That was how he succeeded. Indeed, Xian Yi had created Jian Wushuang. However, Xian Yi was only a step that Jian Wushuang could take to be born. The heaven, earth, and people were in harmony with each other. The potential of the divine beginning realm was being squeezed endlessly. Although it was pushing the seedlings to grow, it was also pushing the seedlings to a high explosive stage. At that time, the cultivation environment of the divine beginning realm was no less than that of the first-class astral world. Naturally, it was easier for geniuses to be born at that stage. That was the heaven and time. The geographical advantage was naturally the 7-star divine realm. Countless cultivators risked their lives to gather all their luck in one place. And that place was Jian Wushuang's hometown, the Green Fire World. The combination of the 3 factors created Jian Wushuang. But if one of them was missing, Jian Wushuang would not be able to withstand the weather. But now in the divine beginning realm, there was no such geographical advantage. At most, there were only people. Believe in this little fellow, just like how you believed in Xianxia back then. Temporal Temple Master smiled. Speaking of Xianxia, actually, I still can't believe it. At such a critical moment, he made a crazy and unbelievable plan at the last minute. In the end, he actually succeeded. He actually created a new perfect life form, giving us a chance to make a comeback and fight again. Heaven Ancestor could not help but exclaim. Not to mention you, I also find it hard to believe. Taoist Shen God smiled. Then, he said seriously, since God has given us a chance to fight again, we must not make any mistakes this time. After all, our divine beginning realm can't afford to fail again. You're right. From now on, this little guy's life is more important than any of us. Temporal Temple Master added. Well, go do what you have to do. Heaven Ancestor, go and find out about the Netherfire blood crystal. If you need any help, feel free to call us. Taoist Shen God said. The 3 of them immediately disappeared. Jian Wushuang was flying slowly in the Star Palace alone. He was still a little excited. In this life, he had worked hard for a long time. Finally, he was only one step away from becoming a Principal's Master. Once he broke through to become a Principal's Master, he could return to the Greenfire world, his hometown, and meet his family and friends. Star Palace occupied an Earth star and had many experts under its command. Although most experts roamed the 3 battlefields all year round, some stayed in Star Palace. When Jian Wushuang was flying in Star Palace, many people had already noticed his existence. Look, isn't that Blood Sword Master? Yes, it's Blood Sword Master. Blood Sword Master entered the unknown region of Devil Smoke Valley alone and went missing for nearly 100,000 years. Not long ago, he walked out of the life and death realm, and his strength skyrocketed. He defeated 5 experts at the pinnacle of the 6th realm by himself. Now, he is publicly recognized as the #1 Principal's Master. How could he be from Star Palace? You just found out that Blood Sword Master came from Star Palace. This news has long spread in this territory. Just now, the Palace Master personally ordered that from today on, Blood Sword Master is the young Palace Master of Star Palace. His position in Star Palace is second only to Palace Master. Young Palace Master? Everyone was secretly amazed. Jian Wushuang was now very famous in this territory. Many cultivators in Star Palace were undoubtedly proud that such a supreme Principal's Master came from Star Palace. While Jian Wushuang was flying, many Principal's Masters of Star Palace took the initiative to fly up. Blood Sword Master. Greetings, young Palace Master. Greetings, sir. One after another, compliments rang in Jian Wushuang's ears. However, Jian Wushuang just nodded indifferently with an extremely cold expression. He knew that these people were so respectful to him because they knew his strength and status. Now, they just wanted to make friends with him. However, when he was not so strong and his strength was not so great. But no one took the initiative to make friends with him. This was the reality. When you were unknown, no one would pay attention to you. But when you were famous, there were a lot of people who took the initiative to come over. Jian Wushuang obviously saw these real people very clearly. If before, when he was not so famous, someone took the initiative to make friends with him, he would be happy to make friends with them. But now, he could not be bothered with these people. Blood Sword Master. Another voice sounded. However, when he saw the person who appeared in front of him, Jian Wushuang's cold expression finally eased, and a trace of a smile gradually appeared on his face. Heavy Master. Didn't you go to the battlefield with Purple Sound Master? Jian Wushuang asked with a smile. Heavy Master was one of the few cultivators in Star Palace who had interacted with each other, and they had a good relationship. My brother and I just came back from the Devil's Smoke Valley. When we came back, we heard that you had a shocking battle in Devil's Smoke Valley. To be honest, I was shocked when I heard the news. Now, everyone in this territory says that you're the strongest principles master, Heavy Master said with a smile. He could not help thinking back to the first time he met Jian Wushuang. He did not put Jian Wushuang in his eyes at all, but as soon as they arrived at Devil's Smoke Valley, he and Master Zi Ming encountered a trap set by Master Fei. It was a life-and-death situation. It was Jian Wushuang who arrived in time and saved his life. From that moment on, he changed his opinion of Jian Wushuang. He sincerely befriended Jian Wushuang, and they even worked together to snatch the Piluo God parts. When Jian Wushuang had revealed himself in the fight for the Piluo God parts, he had been extremely surprised. However, he had not expected that in less than 100,000 years, Blood Sword Master had suddenly become the #1 principles master in this territory. Now that Heavy Master was standing in front of Jian Wushuang and looking at him, he felt like he was dreaming. Jian Wushuang's progress was too terrifying. Heavy Master, I have something to do now, so I won't talk much. When I'm free, I'll come and have a drink with you and Master Zi Ming, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Okay, sure. The Heavy Master nodded quickly. Jian Wushuang left, but the Heavy Master was overjoyed. He stood there, but he could feel many jealous eyes around him. This Heavy Master is really lucky. That's right. So many of us took the initiative to curry favor with Bloodsword Master, and Bloodsword Master didn't even bother to look at him. But this Heavy Master, Bloodsword Master, actually chatted and laughed with him, and even said that he wanted to have a drink with him. Clearly, they have a relationship. AI, back when Bloodsword Master was weak, it was easy for us to curry favor with him. But now, he is already publicly recognized as the #1 principles master in this territory. If we continue to go up to him like this, it will become a form of fawning and flattery. Unlike this Heavy Master who had a relationship with Bloodsword Master back then, even now Bloodsword Master is willing to chat and drink with him. In other words, if Heavy Master encounters any trouble in the future and asks Bloodsword Master for help, Bloodsword Master will at least listen to him, even if he won't agree immediately. Heavy Master is really lucky. Many cultivators in Star Palace were secretly discussing, and they were very envious of Heavy Master. They all knew how high Jian Wushuang's status was in the Star Palace. As for Heavy Master, it would be much more convenient for him to do things in the Star Palace in the future since he was able to talk to Jian Wushuang. Heavy Master himself knew this, so when he noticed the envious gazes around him, he raised his head and laughed complacently. Then he left under the burning gazes. Jian Wushuang did not know about these things, so he did not bother to pay attention to them. Now he had arrived in front of the top officials of Star Palace. Axe 1 Master, Marquis Duanyu, Star Saint Master, and 7 Emotions Master, the 4 highest-ranking officials of Star Palace, stood respectfully in front of Jian Wushuang. My young friend, let me introduce you. This is 7 Emotions Master, a member of the highest-ranking officials of Star Palace. Usually, the 4 of us handle all the matters of Star Palace together, Axe 1 Master said. 7 Emotions. Greetings, young Palace Master, 7 Emotions Master said respectfully. In fact, 7 Emotions Master had doubted Jian Wushuang at the beginning. However, as Jian Wushuang's progress became faster and faster, it had only been 100,000 years, becoming the #1 principles master in this territory. 7 Emotions Master had completely submitted to Jian Wushuang. Young Palace Master? Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. This title sounds a little awkward. From now on, you should call me Heavenly Sword Marquis Friend as before. Upon hearing this, Axe 1 Master and the other 2 looked at each other and smiled. The status of Star Palace Young Palace Master was definitely much higher than the 4 of them. Coupled with Jian Wushuang's absolute strength, they had no choice but to treat Jian Wushuang with great respect and even caution. It was almost the same as when they faced the Palace Master of Star Palace. But now, Jian Wushuang's simple words made them feel a lot more relaxed. Obviously, although Jian Wushuang had reached the stage where they could only look up to him, his attitude toward them was very gentle and did not put on any airs, which made them feel much more comfortable. For, although Palace Master has given me the identity of the young Palace Master, the four of you will manage the Star Palace from now on. I won't interfere. However, the many resources in the Star Palace. Jian Wushuang had not finished his words. Don't worry, my friend. Palace Master has ordered that you can use any resources in the Star Palace at your will. However, in order to maintain the normal order of the Star Palace, you just need to let me know what resources you use, Axe One Master said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded. Then he looked at Axe One Master and said, Axe One Master, I asked you to find out some information for me. Is there any result now? Before he set off for the depths of Devil Smoke Valley, he had specifically asked Axe One Master to find out information about Ice Heart Glazed Jade and Master Star Luo. It had been almost 100,000 years, so there should have been a result. As expected, Axe One Master said with a serious expression, Heavenly Sword Marquis, my young friend, I have tried my best to do the two things you asked me to inquire about. The first is the Ice Heart Glazed Jades. I told you before that a total of 3 pieces of Ice Heart Glazed Jades were born in this territory. One of the first 2 pieces was destroyed on the spot, and the other piece was taken by a ruler to save his wife. The last piece was obtained by the Earth Saint Star Master. Earth Saint Star Master is a reclusive and bloodthirsty ruler realm expert. Over the years, I've tried to contact him on behalf of Star Palace to exchange for the Ice Heart Glazed Jade. However, Earth Saint Star Master sent me a message. What message? Jian Wushuang asked. Earth Saint Star Master's original words were, I don't have the Ice Heart Glazed Jade. Get lost and don't bother me. After receiving this message, I haven't had any further contact with Earth Saint Star Master, Axe One Master said. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. In the past 100,000 years, Axe One Master had only had one contact with the Earth Saint Star Master. But this one contact was enough to show Star Saint Master's attitude. Axe One Master, have you ever asked him if he really doesn't have the Icy Heart Glazed Jade? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course I want to ask, but the Earth Saint Star Master didn't give me a second chance. Besides, he has already spoken, so I don't dare to pester him anymore. After all, everyone in this territory knows that the Earth Saint Star Master is a crazy person who likes to kill and is terrifyingly strong. Even my Star Palace would not dare to provoke such a person, Axe One Master said helplessly. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. He also understood the helplessness of Axe One Master. Earth Saint Star Master was indeed not to be trifled with. Not only was Earth Saint Star Master powerful, but he also had many tricks up his sleeve. Even if he asked Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and the Heaven Ancestor to deal with Earth Saint Star Master personally, they might not be able to take him down completely. Moreover, Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and the Heaven Ancestor had been busy trying to find a way for him to get the Nether Fire Blood Crystal and the Supreme Universe Supreme Treasure Divine Sword. How could he make any requests to the 3 rulers at this time? Forget it. I'll put Earth Saint Star Master aside for now. After the 3 rulers have gathered what I need, and I've truly broken through to become a Principal's Master, I'll go to Earth Saint Star myself. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a hint of fierceness. What about Star Luo Master? Have you heard anything about her over the years? Jian Wushuang asked again. I've investigated her thoroughly, but I've never heard of her. I'm sure that she either doesn't wander around the territory, has no contact with anyone, or has never revealed her strength or identity, Axe One Master said. No news at all? Jian Wushuang's face darkened. It's not that there's no news at all. Axe One Master changed the topic. I've asked around, but I did get a piece of news. It might be related to Star Luo Master. Oh! Jian Wushuang immediately looked over. That was more than 80,000 years ago, during the period when they were trapped in the deepest part of Devil Smoke Valley and lost their tracks. Someone once met a mysterious female ruler in the deepest part of Red Rock Mountain, one of the 3 battlefields. Not only was the ruler beautiful, but she was also accompanied by a beautiful woman who had reached the level of Principal's Master. If I'm not mistaken, That woman should be the disciple of the female ruler. X1 Master said. A beautiful ruler with a beautiful female disciple? Jian Wushuang was stunned. She had seen Star Luo Master, and she was indeed extremely beautiful. As for Lung Ruxue, her body was Lung Rushuang, and her beauty was almost incomparable. After so many years, under the guidance of Star Luo Master, Lung Ruxue had reached the level of Principal's Master. It was normal. In this case, the ruler in the depths of Crimson Rock Mountain had a beautiful female disciple with him. It was very likely that they were Star Luo Master and Lang Ruxue. What happened after that? Jian Wushuang immediately asked. There was no later. X1 Master shook her head. The female ruler and her disciple only appeared once and did not attack. After that, no one has seen them or anyone has seen them, but our Star Palace did not find them. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. In his opinion, the female ruler and her disciple who appeared in the depths of Crimson Rock Mountain were likely to be Star Luo Master and Lang Ruxue, but unfortunately Star Palace's intelligence could only find them this time, and it was more than 80,000 years ago. X1 Master, please continue to investigate this matter, Jian Wushuang said. Yes. X1 Master nodded. There's nothing else. Everyone, go on with your work. After saying this, Jian Wushuang turned around and left. After that, Jian Wushuang made a trip to the Supreme Treasure House and left a moment later. Before leaving, he took the Supreme Universe Supreme Treasure Divine Sword mentioned by Taoist Shen God, as well as many treasures that were helpful in integrating the destruction principles, the spacetime principles, and the reincarnation principles. In addition, Jian Wushuang also took a flying and domain supreme treasure. As the young palace master of Star Palace, he could freely use the many resources of Star Palace, including the many supreme treasures and treasures in the Supreme Treasure Vault. As long as he felt that they were useful, he could take them without paying any price. However, although Jian Wushuang took these things, he still left some of the treasures that he had collected over the years in the Supreme Treasure Vault. For example, the top-tier Universe Supreme Treasure Divine Weapon left by the Star Thunder Ruler, the Shadow Devil Thunder Stick. There was also the axe, which was a top-tier Universe Supreme Treasure, and the spear, which was a top-tier Universe Supreme Treasure, which he had obtained when he first entered the special spacetime. These treasures were all extremely valuable. After leaving the Supreme Treasure Vault, Jian Wushuang returned to his residence and began to cultivate in seclusion. He had met with 3 master-level experts, namely Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and Heaven Ancestor. After knowing the reason, he felt even more stressed and could not afford to slack off. After all, he did not know when Devil Cloud Star Master would personally come. Once he arrived, the final battle would begin immediately. Before that, all he had to do was try his best to increase his strength. Right now, the fastest way to increase his strength was to fuse the 3 principles and break through to become a principles master. Once he broke through, his strength would definitely reach a whole new level, and he could even completely rival a ruler. 9 years passed in the blink of an eye. In this territory, on an Earth star that was quite far away from the Star Palace. Rumble. 3 terrifying auras descended at the same time, pressing down on this Earth star. There were quite a few principles masters on this Earth star, and when they felt these 3 auras, they instantly began to tremble, and their hearts trembled. In the void at the center of this Earth star, a cold middle-aged man who was over 3 meters tall stood there, looking around at the source of the 3 auras. He frowned deeply. He was the master of this planet. He was also the most famous person in this territory, Ruler Guyo. Star Palace Master, Temporal Temple Master, and the Empyrean Patriarch. The 3 of you came from the incomparably distant primordial star world. If you were to travel here by foot, it would probably take thousands of years. Even if you were able to rely on a cosmic tunnel, the price you would have to pay for such a long-distance teleportation is incredibly high. Even though you know this, the 3 of you still came, Ruler Guyo said in a low voice. Guyo, let's cut to the chase. You should know why the 3 of us are here. Hand over the Netherfire blood crystal, and the 3 of us will leave immediately. Otherwise, Taoist Shen God's eyes turned cold. In another void, the Temporal Temple Master's face flickered. Instantly, boundless spacetime energy swept out, completely sealing off the surrounding spacetime. Ruler Guyo's face sank as he glanced at the Temporal Temple Master. It's rumored that this Temporal Temple Master's understanding and usage of the space-time laws have already reached the peak. Now that I look at it, it seems that this is indeed the case. With him around, I don't even have the chance to escape. If these three rulers join forces and attack me at the same time, I'm definitely no match for them. Taking a deep breath, Ruler Guyo raised his head again. Is it worth the trouble of the three of you for a netherfire blood crystal? Of course it is, Heaven Ancestor growled. Guyo, hand over the netherfire blood crystal honestly. The conditions I promised you will not change. However, if you continue to be stubborn, be careful that this ruler of yours will really die here. It's just a single netherfire blood crystal. Although it is of some use to me, it isn't enough for me to risk my life for it. The reason I rejected you earlier was because I wanted you to pay an even greater price. Now that you have gone through so much trouble, you can just take the netherfire blood crystal. Ruler Guyo waved his hand. Instantly, a streak of blood-colored light shot toward the Empyrean Lord. The Heaven Ancestor stretched out his hand to receive it. After giving it a sweeping glance, he nodded toward Taoist Shen God and the Temporal Temple Master. Now that they had acquired the netherfire blood crystal, the three of them naturally had no plans to attack. Ruler Guyo, we've offended you in many ways today, but the netherfire blood crystal is of great importance to us. We can only come up with this plan. I'm sorry. This is what I promised you previously. The Heaven Ancestor waved his hand, tossing an interspatial ring to Ruler Guyo. Then, the three of them left. Seeing the three of them leave, the cultivators on this Earth star let out a heavy sigh. As for Guyo Ruler, after he received the Heaven Ancestor's interspatial ring, he glanced at it and his expression became strange. Although the netherfire blood crystal is rare, it shouldn't be too important to a ruler. However, these three people actually paid such a high price to rush here from the divine beginning realm just for a netherfire blood crystal. They actually came to kill me? What is the use of the netherfire blood crystal to them? The Guyo ruler frowned, but he did not think too much about it. As for what happened today, it was a bit aggrieved for him. However, facing three rulers at the same time, and one of them was a ruler who had reached the peak of space-time, he had no choice but to bow his head. After that, the other party had apologized to him personally and left him some face. Therefore, he did not hold a grudge. At most, he felt a little unhappy. After the Taoist Shen God trio obtained the netherfire blood crystal from the Guyo ruler, they immediately returned to Star Palace as fast as they could. They handed over the netherfire blood crystal and the other treasures on the list that Jian Wushuang had given them. All of them were given to Jian Wushuang. After collecting all the treasures, Jian Wushuang started to cultivate the supreme eternal celestial body without any delay. This cultivation lasted for 80 years. After 80 years, Jian Wushuang finally succeeded in cultivating the first level of the supreme eternal celestial body. Is this a divine body comparable to a supreme treasure? Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and felt his divine body. His eyes lit up. This feeling is so powerful. It was not as if he had never encountered a body-refining secret skill before. When he was weak, he had cultivated the primordial void celestial body, a body-refining secret skill of the ancient clan, which was one of the 4 great divine clans. However, although the primordial void celestial body was one of the top 10 body-refining secret skills in the divine beginning realm, it was not very helpful to Principal's masters. When he cultivated this secret skill to the top, it would only be of little help to the Principal's master. Therefore, Jian Wushuang had stopped cultivating this secret skill a long time ago. However, the supreme imperishable celestial body was different. The supreme imperishable celestial body was a secret skill that came from the inner heart of the planet Lingyun. Planet Lingyun used to be in ruler in the deepest part of the universe, and there were many supreme experts. The supreme imperishable celestial body, when cultivated to an extremely high level, was of great help to rulers and even supreme experts. It was also of great help to the Principal's master. It was even more helpful. Jian Wushuang was only at the level of the Immortal Saint now. It was also because of the magic of the perfect life that he could barely cultivate the first level of the supreme level Immortal Shen body. Once he cultivated it, His divine body could be comparable to an elementary universe supreme treasure. A divine body at the level of an elementary universe supreme treasure. How strong was such a divine body? Jian Wushuang did not know. He could only feel that his current divine body was very strong, hundreds or thousands of times stronger than before. How much help would this divine body be to his strength? Let's try it. With a smile on his face, Jian Wushuang slowly stood up and left his residence. Soon, Jian Wushuang found the woodcutter who was chopping trees in the special tower, which was the Heaven Ancestor. The four masters of the Star Palace camp, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, stayed in the divine beginning realm all year round to guard the seal. After Taoist Shen God and the Heaven Ancestor obtained the Netherfire Blood Crystal, they left the Star Palace to help Jian Wushuang find the Supreme Treasure Divine Sword. As for the Temporal Temple Master, he also went to the Quicksand Demon area, one of the 3 battlefields. Now, only the Heaven Ancestor was still in the Star Palace. Little guy, why did you come to see me? The Heaven Ancestor looked at Jian Wushuang. I did. Jian Wushuang smiled. I just mastered a secret skill, but I don't know its exact power. That's why I wanted to practice it with you, Senior Heaven Ancestor. Is that so? The Heaven Ancestor raised his eyebrows. Then what do you need me to do? It's very simple. Senior Heaven Ancestor, you just need to attack me with all your strength, Jian Wushuang said. That's it. The Heaven Ancestor was stunned for a moment, but then he smiled and said, all right, but you have to be careful. After all, I'm a ruler, and my attacks are not something an ordinary person can withstand. I'm confident. Senior Heaven Ancestor, you just need to focus on your attacks, Jian Wushuang said with great confidence. All right, be careful. The Heaven Ancestor did not waste any time. He raised the axe in his hand, which had been chopping trees. Jian Wushuang had used this axe before, so it looked just like an ordinary mortal's axe. But now, in the hands of the Heaven Ancestor, it suddenly revealed an earth-shaking power. This power carried an extremely powerful aura. Supreme True Treasure. Jian Wushuang's pupils constricted. He had been cultivating with this axe for a long time and had thought that it was very ordinary. But now, it seemed that he was too weak to sense the real power of the axe. There were not many supreme true treasures, even among experts at the ruler realm, but the Heaven Ancestor had one. I'm coming. As soon as the Heaven Ancestor finished his words, he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang as if he had teleported. The axe he raised also fell straight down. Whoosh! It was a light axe, but the moment he swung it, he felt as if everything was torn apart. Seeing the axe falling down, Jian Wushuang did not move at all. He did not have any intention of waving his sword to block it. This kid isn't going to block it? The Heaven Ancestor frowned. Does he want to use his divine body to block my axe? Clang! The axe struck Jian Wushuang's body without any resistance. The terrifying power burst out and left a white mark on the armor on Jian Wushuang's body. However, Jian Wushuang still stood there unscathed until the power of the axe was completely exhausted. His expression did not change at all. How could it be? The Heaven Ancestor was shocked. Ha! Heaven Ancestor, you put too much water in, right? A voice with a smile sounded. That's right. If you put too much water in, you'll lose face. Another gentle voice sounded. 2 blurry figures appeared in the void out of thin air. These 2 people were, of course, Taoist Shen God and Temporal Temple Master. However, they were not their original bodies. They were just consciousness incarnations left in the Star Palace. Although they were consciousness avatars and did not have much battle strength, their vision was still there. Senior Heaven Ancestor, how much strength did you use with your axe just now? Jian Wushuang looked over. 10%, Heaven Ancestor said. He was worried that his attack would be too powerful and hurt Jian Wushuang, so he deliberately suppressed his strength. Although he only used 10% of his strength, an expert at the ruler realm could crush any principal's master under normal circumstances. Unexpectedly, only 10% of his strength? No wonder I didn't feel anything, Jian Wushuang said. You didn't feel anything? The Heaven Ancestor was stunned. Ha! Heaven Ancestor, you have to work harder. Otherwise, this little guy will look down on you. Taoist Shen God laughed very happily. No, I don't mean to look down on Senior Heaven Ancestor. It's just that I really didn't feel anything from Senior Heaven Ancestor's acts just now. Jian Wushuang spread his hands and said. He was telling the truth. He had the Blood Demon Cave armor to protect him, so he could directly weaken the Ruler Realm attack by more than 90%. The remaining 10% of the power would be absorbed by his divine body, which meant that the strike from the Heaven Ancestor, only less than 1% of the power was used on his divine body. With his divine body, which was comparable to a supreme treasure, he could indeed ignore this 1% of the power. Heaven Ancestor, try 50% of your strength, Temporal Temple Master said. Okay. Heaven Ancestor nodded slightly. Before, he was afraid of hurting Jian Wushuang, so he did not dare to use too much strength. But now that he knew Jian Wushuang's ability to protect his body, he was not so cautious. Soon, Heaven Ancestor attacked again. Whoosh! The axe still swung out, and its speed was extremely fast. Like a bolt of lightning, it landed on Jian Wushuang's body in an instant. Rumble! A terrifying power burst out in an instant. The strike of the Heaven Ancestor with 50% of its power could be said to be earth-shattering. However, Jian Wushuang only trembled slightly and took 2 steps back, but he immediately stopped. How was it? The Heaven Ancestor, Taoist Shen God, and Temporal Temple Master all looked at Jian Wushuang. Yes, it's much stronger than the previous strike. However, it still hasn't broken through the limit of my divine body, Jian Wushuang said. What do you mean? The Heaven Ancestor asked. That is to say, Senior Heaven Ancestor, your axe didn't cause any damage to my divine body, so it can't destroy my divine power, Jian Wushuang said. Jian Wushuang said it tactfully, but the 3 Heaven Ancestors immediately understood. You didn't use any of your divine power? It's intact. How is that possible? The Heaven Ancestor widened his eyes. Even Taoist Shen God and Temporal Temple Master were surprised. The Heaven Ancestor used 50% of his power to attack Jian Wushuang with his axe, but he still could not do any damage to Jian Wushuang. Heaven Ancestor, use your full strength, Temporal Temple Master said in a low voice. Yes, not only use your full strength, but also use the secret skill you created, Taoist Shen God said. Okay. The Heaven Ancestor nodded solemnly, and his eyes became sharp. Use your full strength? Jian Wushuang licked his lips, but there was an excited smile on his face. Boom! The Heaven Ancestor's body shook, and his terrifying power burst out without any concealment. For a moment, the terrifying power of the Ruler Realm filled this special space. Indestructible, God Slayer. The Heaven Ancestor raised the huge axe in his hands at the same time. With a low shout, the huge axe was brought down. Hua! A shocking axe shadow appeared in this space-time. As soon as the axe shadow appeared, the space-time began to tremble crazily, as if it could not withstand the power. Indeed, although this space-time was created by the Heaven Ancestor, and its endurance was extraordinary, the Heaven Ancestor was giving it his all. Furthermore, he had used his ultimate technique. This was the full power attack of a Ruler Realm expert. It was normal that the spacetime could not withstand it. Good timing. Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up when he saw the axe shadow coming at him. However, he had no intention of dodging it. He just stood there quietly and let the axe shadow come at him. His heart was filled with anticipation. Don't disappoint me with the supreme, imperishable, celestial body. With endless anticipation, the earth-shaking axe finally struck his divine body. In an instant rumble, a large area of space cracks appeared, and the space began to collapse crazily. In the center of the spacetime, Jian Wushuang was immediately sent flying. He was sent flying to the edge of the spacetime and crashed into the spacetime barrier. The astonishing power contained in the axe also rushed into Jian Wushuang's divine body. Jian Wushuang stood there with his eyes closed. In the void in front of him, Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and the Heaven Ancestor had stood together again. They all frowned slightly. I wonder how the little guy is doing, Temporal Temple Master said with some worry. If the Heaven Ancestor's axe didn't hurt him at all, he should be fine even if it did, Taoist Shen God said. You too asked me to use all my strength. Don't blame me if I hurt him badly. The Heaven Ancestor rolled his eyes and said. While the three of them were waiting, Jian Wushuang finally opened his eyes and rushed in front of them. Little guy, how was the result? Taoist Shen God immediately looked over. As expected of Senior Heaven Ancestor, the power of the axe just now was indeed very strong. It could already hurt me, Jian Wushuang said. Hurt you? The Heaven Ancestor looked strange. How badly? Well, Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Let me use up 1,000th of my divine power. Excuse me, Heaven Ancestor, Taoist Shen God, Time and Temporal Temple Master are all stunned. 1 in 10,000? An expert at the level of a ruler attacked Jian Wushuang with all his strength without any hindrance. As a result, Jian Wushuang only lost 1/10 of his divine power? 1 in 10,000? How could that be called a loss? Little guy, is what you said true? Did you really only use 1 out of 10,000 of your divine power? Taoist Shen God looked at Jian Wushuang with a strange expression. That's true. Jian Wushuang nodded. Senior Heaven Ancestor's attack just exceeded the limit of my divine body and caused a little damage to my divine body. I only used 1/10, 000 of my divine power to completely recover from this little damage. Impossible. This is impossible. Heaven Ancestor shook his head crazily. He growled. Even an expert at the same level as a ruler who is good at defense can't only use 1 out of 10,000 of his divine power as long as he doesn't have a supreme true treasure armor. What he said was the truth. The full-strength strike of a ruler realm expert was so powerful that even a ruler would suffer some damage if he took it head-on. But what Jian Wushuang said now was only 1,000th of his divine power, which was incredible. Senior Heaven Ancestor, you don't have to be amazed. Jian Wushuang smiled. During my years in Devil's Smoke Valley, I've indeed obtained an extraordinary opportunity. One of them is an incomparably powerful body-refining secret technique. This secret technique is of an extremely high level. The list I gave you before is the list of the natural treasures needed to cultivate this secret technique. Now, the first level of that secret technique has already been refined by me, and after refining it, my godly body is already comparable to a low-level universe true treasure. What? Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and Heaven Ancestor were all shocked. A supreme treasure? Little guy, you said your divine body is comparable to a universe supreme treasure? The three masters looked at Jian Wushuang in astonishment. It's like this. Jian Wushuang nodded again. It's because my divine body is comparable to an elementary universe supreme treasure that I dared to withstand the attack of Senior Heaven Ancestor. The power of the Heaven Ancestor's axe just now was indeed extremely powerful. However, I have the supreme true treasure armor to protect my body. The power of the supreme true treasure armor was reduced by more than 90% at the first moment. Less than 10% of the power of the axe was used on my divine body. My divine body is comparable to an elementary universe true treasure, so less than 10% of the power was barely able to reach my limit. That's why it caused me a bit of damage. Jian Wushuang had explained in great detail how he had received the blow, and it was the truth. However, Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and Heaven Ancestor were still confused and shocked. After a long time, the three finally managed to regain their senses, but their faces were still filled with shock and disbelief. A godly body comparable to a universe supreme treasure? This is simply inconceivable. That's right. We've roamed this territory for so long, and we've come into contact with some of the surrounding territories, but we've never heard of anyone with a godly body that's as powerful as a universe supreme treasure. Incredible. Truly incredible. The three rulers were also very excited at this moment. After a while, little guy, you just said that you've only mastered the first level of the secret skill? Temporal Temple Master suddenly looked at Jian Wushuang. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. The level of the secret skill is very high. Just by mastering the first level of the divine body, it can be comparable to an elementary universe true treasure, and by mastering the second level, it can be comparable to an advanced universe true treasure, and so on. Unfortunately, the threshold for cultivating the secret skill is very high. The first level alone requires a principles master to cultivate it. I can barely master the first level because of my perfect life form. In addition, during the process of cultivating this secret art, you will need some natural treasures to assist you. In addition, these natural treasures are extremely rare and precious. For example, the first level's natural treasures can be acquired in our territory, but the second level's natural treasures are hundreds of times more valuable and rare than the first level's natural treasures. It is virtually impossible to find them in this territory. In other words, you can only cultivate the first level in this territory? Taoist Shen God asked. Yes, if you want to cultivate the second level, you have to leave this territory and go to the deepest part of the universe. Only there can you find the genius earthly treasures needed to cultivate the second level. Jian Wushuang said. That's a pity. Taoist Shen God sighed. Yes, the first level alone is so heaven-defying. If you have the chance to cultivate the second level, then you are truly invincible in this territory. Your divine body is comparable to an advanced universe supreme treasure. Who can shake it? The heaven ancestor also sighed. However, even if you can't cultivate the second level, just the first level alone is already incredible. This is definitely a big surprise for us, Temporal Temple Master said. Yes, a big surprise. This is definitely a big surprise. Taoist Shen God was also excited. A divine body comparable to an elementary universe supreme treasure, coupled with a pinnacle universe supreme treasure armor. Even if you take a full strength attack from a ruler realm expert, you only use 1/10 of your divine power. This means that you can completely ignore an ordinary elementary ruler. Even if you stand in front of him, he probably won't be able to do anything to you. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang could not help but smile. Indeed, he had now experienced two primary rulers. One was the tall man from the Three Saint Realms who had ambushed him in Devil's Smoke Valley, and the other was the Heaven Ancestor. In terms of strength, the tall man from the Three Saint Realms was probably stronger, but he was definitely not much stronger. Now that the Heaven Ancestor's full strength attack had hit his body, it had only consumed 1 out of 10,000 of his divine power. It was like scratching an itch and could not shake him at all. After all, the speed at which he absorbed divine power was even faster than this. And that tall man's full strength attack could only cause 2 out of 10,000 damage to him at most. It still could not affect him much. Besides, if he were to really fight against a ruler, there was no way he would just stand there and allow his opponent to attack him. If that was the case, then in this territory, a junior ruler really would not be able to do anything to him. It's not just a junior ruler. Even a senior ruler like the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master wouldn't be able to do anything to your godly body. Taoist Shen God said with a laugh. Yes, with your current divine body and the protection of your supreme true treasure armor, you can completely ignore a primary ruler. As for a senior ruler, he can barely hurt you, but it's impossible for him to threaten your life. Even if 2 or 3 senior rulers joined forces, it would be difficult for them to kill you. The only one who can really threaten you is probably a top-tier ruler, but as far as I know, there's only one such ruler in this territory. And that ruler has always paid attention to his status. He doesn't have any enmity with my Star Palace, so he won't come to deal with you for no reason. In other words, you can almost do whatever you want in this territory now. The Heaven Ancestor said with a smile. Jian Wushuang also smiled. He knew that once he mastered the first level of the Supreme Eternal Celestial Body, his life-saving ability would be greatly enhanced. In this territory, there were very few people who could kill him. At least, he did not have to care too much about ordinary rulers. Of course, you should not be too conceited. After all, the Devil Cloud Star Master definitely has the strength to kill you. Taoist Shen God suddenly said. Jian Wushuang was stunned, and his expression became serious. Indeed, his biggest enemy, Devil Cloud Star Master, was a master of a second-grade star world. He had dozens of masters under his command, and experts of that level had long reached the peak of the master realm. Of course, they had the strength to kill him. Not only that, as far as I know, Devil Cloud Star Master also has an extremely special supreme treasure in his hand. That supreme treasure is different from the others, and it has an extremely special power. That power is the bane of all special life forms. When the 7-star mysterious sect was destroyed, Xianxia was heavily injured by that supreme treasure and lost most of his divine power, which was why he died. Taoist Shen God said seriously. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang's pupils shrank. Senior Shen God, is the supreme treasure you mentioned a spear? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, you know it? Taoist Shen God looked at him in surprise. I was lucky enough to see a picture of that battle in the 7-star divine realm. In the picture, my master Xianxia was pierced through the heart by a spear. That attack should be fatal to him, Jian Wushuang said. Yes, it was that spear that caused your master Xianxia's death, Taoist Shen God said seriously. Your master Xianxia is also a peerless genius. He has also obtained many great opportunities. Not only is his strength extremely strong, but he also has perfect control over the mountain river map as a supreme treasure. At the same time, he also obtained a heaven suppression tablet by chance. Heaven suppressing tablet? Jian Wushuang's pupils constricted. Of course, he was familiar with the heaven suppressing tablet. In his previous life, Di Shursan had taken him to a heaven suppressing tablet, and through it, he had obtained an extraordinary opportunity. At that time, he had heard from Di Shursan that there were 9 heaven suppression tablets, and one alone was enough to shock the world. If the 9 heaven suppression tablets were gathered together, they could suppress the world. One could imagine how powerful the heaven suppression tablet was. The mountain river map, the 2 supreme treasures Xianxia had, is the most powerful one in the domain category. It should be in your hands now. Taoist Shen God looked at Jian Wushuang. Yes, it's in my hands. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. The mountain river map had been his most powerful supreme treasure since his last life. It was also one of his most powerful trump cards. He would not use it unless it was absolutely necessary. After all, he knew that this supreme treasure was extraordinary. In addition, he had never fully exerted the power of this supreme treasure since he got it. Even when he was on Saha Island, the power of the entire blood wave realm was infused into his body because of the blood waves. It had allowed him to possess the combat power of a ruler for a short period of time. However, even so, he was still unable to fully unleash the power of the mountain river map. For example, the most terrifying killing move of the mountain river map, the 9 dragons heaven-cleaving great formation, had only been able to unleash the 2 dragons heaven-cleaving great formation. One had to know that the most powerful move of the 9 dragons heaven-cleaving great formation was the 9 dragons heaven-cleaving great formation. Moreover, the mountain river map was a domain-type supreme treasure. Its most terrifying technique was a domain, not an offensive technique. However, the most powerful domain of the mountain river map, he could not use it. A domain-type supreme treasure? Master really gave me a good treasure, Jian Wushuang sighed. He had never been clear about the level of the mountain river map. Before he came to the universe battlefield, he thought the map was a top-tier universe supreme treasure, but after arriving here, he immediately changed his mind. After all, he had come into contact with many supreme treasures. A top-tier universe supreme treasure could never have such tyrannical power and could not be used by him. Therefore, Jian Wushuang had guessed at that time that the mountain river map might be a supreme true treasure. Now, it seemed that it was true. A supreme treasure, a domain-type supreme treasure, might not be able to unleash its full power even if it was a ruler realm expert. He was just a saint. And even if he had the invincible battle strength of a principal's master, how could he unleash its full power? As a domain-type supreme treasure, the mountain river map is coveted by countless ruler realm experts. Back then, Xianxia relied on the supreme treasure to fight against several rulers at the same time. However, the mountain river map was not Xianxia's supreme treasure. His true supreme treasure was still the heaven suppression tablet. Taoist Shen God's voice was low. The heaven-suppressing monoliths were obtained by Xianxia from the core of the quicksand demon realm, one of the 3 great battlefields. There were a total of 9 heaven-suppressing monoliths, and only 3 of them appeared in the quicksand demon realm. However, Even if only 3 of them appeared in the quicksand demon realm, the commotion they caused was still unbelievably huge. As he spoke up to this point, Taoist Shen God could not help but exclaim in admiration. That was indeed a huge commotion. The temporal temple master nodded as well. The 3 great battlefields have existed in this territory for so many years, and countless treasures have been born within them. Even supreme treasures have been born before. Every time a supreme treasure is born, there will be some commotion. However, there has never been a supreme treasure that has been born that is comparable to the birth of the heaven-suppressing tablet. That scene not only shocked the entire quicksand demon area, but even the other 2 battlefields and the territory we're in can sense the astonishing energy fluctuation. The entire territory can sense the fluctuation? Jian Wushuang was shocked. After all, the territory he was in was extremely vast. There were dozens of astral worlds, and these astral worlds were connected to each other. Even him, who traveled at the speed of a principal's master, it would take hundreds or even thousands of years to reach here. These were only 2 astral worlds that were connected to each other. From this, one could imagine how vast the entire territory was. However, when the heaven-suppressing tablet appeared, the commotion it caused could actually affect the entire territory. At that time, the commotion was too great, causing all the experts in this territory to be alarmed. Countless experts even dared to head into the depths of the quicksand demon realm like madmen, including many rulers. In the end, it caused the most intense battle in this territory. During that battle, I remember that there were a total of 18 rulers who participated in it. As for the principal's masters, there were countless of them. There were so many experts who wanted to obtain the heaven-suppressing monument, yet there were only 3. Hence, the frenzied battle began. In the end, the 3 rulers died on the spot. As for the principal's masters, a large number of them died. No one even bothered to count them. In the end, 2 of the 3 heaven suppression tablets fell into the hands of 2 extremely powerful rulers in this territory. As for the other one, it was obtained by your master Xianxia. Master actually obtained a heaven suppression tablet from that multi-ruler expert? Jian Wushuang could not help exclaiming. He knew that his master was only a principal's master at his peak. Although his battle strength was comparable to a ruler, there were a total of 18 rulers on the battlefield. In the end, a total of 3 rulers died. How difficult would it be to obtain a heaven suppression tablet from that multiple ruler? At that time, your master's combat power was only comparable to that of a low-level ruler. He was considered average among the 18 rulers. However, he had many tricks up his sleeve, and his life-saving abilities were even more impressive. Most importantly, he still had the Mountain River Country map, a domain-type supreme true treasure. In addition, he was only a principal's master. Those rulers didn't guard against him in the beginning, which was why he was able to succeed. Taoist Shen God smiled and said, "When your master obtained the heaven-suppressing tablet, his strength reached a whole new level, and he could even rival a superior ruler." What? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Why? Isn't it incredible? Taoist Shen God looked at Jian Wushuang with a smile. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. According to Taoist Shen God, his master was only comparable to a primary ruler at that time. However, after obtaining the heaven-suppressing tablet, he was now comparable to a superior ruler. A superior ruler was 2 levels higher than a primary ruler, and there were probably no more than 3 such rulers in this territory. A treasure could allow Xianxi's battle strength to go from a primary ruler to a superior ruler and directly match a superior ruler? What level is the heaven suppression tablet? Jian Wushuang asked in shock. The heaven suppression tablet was so terrifying that someone with the battle strength of a primary ruler could instantly rival a superior ruler. I don't know what level it is, but I'm sure it's more powerful than a supreme treasure. Only supreme beings are qualified to use such a treasure. Taoist Shen God paused for a moment, then he said seriously, "Little guy, there's only one reason why I'm telling you so much. Your master is as strong as a superior ruler, although he doesn't have your terrifying divine body, which is comparable to an elementary universe supreme treasure. The treasure in his hand is extremely powerful. Even so, he still died under that special spear. There's no room for struggle. So, you must be very vigilant against that spear. In the future, if you meet an expert invited by the three saint realms and see him take out a strange spear, don't hesitate and run away immediately. Do you understand? I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded heavily. He knew that it was the existence of that special spear that caused his master's death. He did not want to follow in his master's footsteps. Of course, he had to be wary of that spear, which had a great restraining effect on any special life form. By the way, I've seen Master's heaven-suppressing tablet before, Jian Wushuang said. It's not strange. Taoist Shen God smiled. Although your master died, he left a way out for the 7-star mysterious sect. He sealed the entire 7-star divine realm and kept all his treasures. He gave you the mountain river map, but the heaven suppression tablet is too high level. You were too weak to refine it. But the heaven suppression tablet must be left to you in the end. After you break through to become a principles master and break the seal, you can go to the heaven suppression tablet and try to refine it. Once you refine the heaven suppression tablet, your strength will certainly reach a new level. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. The heaven suppression tablet Jian Wushuang had a trace of desire in his heart to make Xianxia, who only had the strength of a primary ruler, a supreme treasure that could rival a superior ruler in one leap. Well, continue to cultivate. Taoist Shen God waved his hand and said. Jian Wushuang bowed respectfully to the three rulers in front of him and then turned to leave. After Jian Wushuang left, the three rulers began to chat again. This little guy is worthy of being created by Xianxia, who gathered all the heavenly Tao and good fortune in the 7-star divine realm and the divine beginning realm. He is even more blessed than Xianxia, Taoist Shen God said. Yes, a body-refining secret skill that can make your divine body comparable to a universe supreme treasure. I've never heard of it before. It's too abnormal. Such a secret skill must come from the deepest part of the universe. In the deepest part of the universe, only some big forces can have it. To be able to get such a secret skill, it's really extraordinary. The heaven ancestor sighed. Not only that, he also had a special opportunity in the blood wave realm. The master of the blood wave realm is undoubtedly a super powerful warrior from the depths of the universe. However, such a powerful warrior helped him with all his strength during the battle on the Saha Island. He even caused the entire blood wave realm to collapse. It can be seen that their relationship is no small matter. After he came out from the blood wave realm, his power has soared. It can be seen that the opportunity he got in the blood wave realm is not small either. Temporal Temple Master chuckled. He already has a heaven-defying opportunity. With the help of us and the things Xianxia prepared for him, he has thousands of opportunities in his body. If he can't take the final step, there won't be anyone else in the divine beginning realm who has the same opportunity as him. The three sighed. Soon, Taoist Shen God and Temporal Temple Master gradually disappeared. The heaven ancestor continued to pick up the axe in his hand and began to chop the trees next to him. Jian Wushuang returned to the courtyard where he lived, but his heart was still very heavy. The supreme-level immortal Shen body did not disappoint me. It's comparable to a divine body of an elementary universe supreme treasure, so I don't have to care about ordinary elementary rulers or even advanced rulers now. However, just as Senior Shen God said, Devil Cloudstar has a treasure that is specialized in restraining special life forms. My master died under that long spear. Although my current body protection ability may be stronger than my master's, that long spear can still pose a fatal threat to me. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. Keep cultivating. I need to fuse the three rules as soon as possible and break through to become a principles master. When that happens, my strength will skyrocket. If I can refine the heaven suppression tablet again, I might be even stronger than my master when he was at his peak. By then, even if my opponent has the special spear, as long as the real body of Devil Cloud Star Master doesn't arrive personally, it shouldn't be able to pose a fatal threat to me. After taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang began to cultivate in seclusion again. This time, he was in seclusion purely to merge the three rules and break through to become a principles master. Moreover, He had made up his mind that he would not come out of seclusion until he had completely merged the three principles. Time passed quietly. The merging of the three principles was dozens or even hundreds of times more difficult than the previous two principles. However, Jian Wushuang had already mastered the destruction will. After so many years of groping, especially when he was trapped in the 18 ultimate formation, the breakthrough in sword principle triggered the universe origin of sword principle. Although the universe origin was in the aspect of sword principle, it was more or less helpful to the various principles of heaven and earth. Because of this, he had already made some progress in the fusion of the three principles. Now, he had obtained a large number of treasures from the supreme treasure vault that combined the destruction principles, the spacetime principles, and the samsara principles. This allowed him to go further and further in the fusion of the three principles. It was not until the 3000th year of Jian Wushuang's seclusion. Finally, he had completely fused the three principles he had comprehended. The three principles of destruction, space-time, and samsara are perfectly fused. Jian Wushuang sat in the secret chamber with his eyes open, but his eyes were full of surprise and excitement. After 3,000 years of secluded cultivation, he had finally taken this step and perfectly integrated the three principles. At the moment of integration, he immediately gained an additional power of will. However, this power of will was not what Jian Wushuang really wanted. What he wanted was to break through the bottleneck that had troubled him for a long time. As I expected, after the three rules were merged, I could clearly sense where the bottleneck was. What I have to do now is to force a breakthrough. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed. Let's begin. The principles master's breakthrough began. The perfect fusion of the three principles had long exceeded the requirements for an immortal saint to break through to the principles master realm. Even though Jian Wushuang was a perfect being and was extremely restricted by the universe principles, after the fusion of the three principles, he had finally met the requirements for the breakthrough. What he lacked now was a final kick. He had to forcefully kick it away. In the secret chamber, Jian Wushuang's face was cold and his divine power surged. At the same time, a light cyan divine sword appeared in his hand. This light cyan divine sword was the pinnacle universe supreme treasure he had obtained from the supreme treasure vault. It was called the Cyan Spirit Divine Sword. Compared to the many divine swords he had used before, its blade was not as sharp as before. Such a divine sword would allow Jian Wushuang to display the strongest tearing effect when he used the sword art of laceration. However, the sword with a thicker body was stronger under the gravitational force, so its power was naturally much stronger. Break for me! With a low shout, Jian Wushuang's three principles merged divine power crazily rushed toward the barrier in his body. At the same time, he swung the Cyan Spirit Divine Sword in his hand. It was the most powerful skill that Jian Wushuang had created. Starfire Burning Sun. Boom! The space trembled, and Jian Wushuang's body roared crazily. After a while, the barrier in his body collapsed. I've made a breakthrough. Jian Wushuang was overjoyed. In fact, it was quite normal. He had already met the requirements for a breakthrough. In addition, he had accumulated enough power before, so it was natural for him to make a breakthrough. As he made a breakthrough, the vast and majestic divine power in his body surged and began to change qualitatively. During the process of the divine power's transformation, the divine power gathered in his body also increased at an incredible speed. The Star Palace. That special tower was the tower where the Empyrean Patriarch was located. Within the special space on the top floor of the tower, the forest had already disappeared. What replaced it was an enormous estate. This estate was incredibly beautiful and majestic. In the center of the estate was a stone pavilion. Taoist Shen God, the temporal temple master, and the Empyrean Patriarch were seated together, casually drinking tea while chatting. That little fellow has been in closed-door training for 3,000 years, right? The Empyrean Patriarch said slowly. Right? It has been 3,000 years. It seems he intends to completely break through to become a principles master before coming out. I wonder how long he will need, the temporal temple master said. There's no rush. Taoist Shen God just smiled. A long time ago, I sent some people to the territory which Devil Cloud Star is located in. I've been keeping an eye on Devil Cloud Star's movements, and from the information I've received, Devil Cloudstar doesn't have any intentions of personally coming to our territory. He doesn't even have any intentions of sending a few rulers here. As long as Devil Cloudstar doesn't come here in person, we have nothing to worry about. That's true. Temporal Temple Master nodded slightly. They already knew that Devil Cloudstar had sent 3 rulers to this territory and that they were staying on the sacred island. However, they did not care about these 3 rulers, even if they were very strong. Moreover, they were not worried about bringing the spear that could restrain Jian Wushuang. With Jian Wushuang's current life-saving skills, it would be too difficult to kill him. What they were afraid of now was Devil Cloudstar Master, who had reached the peak of the ruler realm. If their original body came in person, together with the spear that could restrain Jian Wushuang, that would be a fatal threat to Jian Wushuang. However, since Devil Cloudstar Master did not intend to come to this territory, they were not worried. Not only that, they also said that Devil Cloudstar seems to have caused some trouble recently. The entire planet is very busy. I'm afraid that we won't be able to take care of our territory in a short time, Taoist Shen God said with a smile. Haha. That's great. Temporal Temple Master was overjoyed. This is indeed good news for us. The Heaven Ancestor nodded solemnly. As long as the original body of the Devil Cloudstar Master did not arrive in this territory, they would have one more day to prepare. Jian Wushuang could also have one more day to improve his strength. If the Devil Cloudstar Master delayed for tens of thousands of years or hundreds of thousands of years before coming here, that would be even better. After all, with Jian Wushuang's talent and speed of improvement, he might have become a ruler in hundreds of thousands of years. By that time, even if Devil Cloudstar Master noticed it, it would be too late for him to rush over. I just hope that Devil Cloudstar Master can't get away. He can't worry about this place and give the little guy enough time. Even better, he might as well give up on the Divine Beginning Realm completely, Taoist Shen God said. Give up on the Divine Beginning Realm? How is that possible? Temporal Temple Master sneered. To possess an astral world and comprehend the workings and evolution of an astral world is a tremendous opportunity. Even many top rulers and even legendary autarchs would covet it. Why would he give up? Not necessarily. You have to understand that the reason why Planet Devil Cloudstar Master is so crazy about accelerating the evolution of the Divine Beginning Realm is because he wants to squeeze out the potential of the Divine Beginning Realm in order to break through as soon as possible. However, if he has truly broken through and Maoyun has caused trouble for his flawless clone, he might really give up on this place, Taoist Shen God said. If? How can there be so many ifs in this world? In my opinion, it's absolutely impossible for him to give up on the Divine Beginning Realm, the Heaven Ancestor said seriously. I was just casually saying that. Taoist Shen God smiled awkwardly. Let's not talk about this for now. The Temporal Temple Master waved his hand. Black God, you said earlier that you wanted to get that little fellow a suitable supreme attack treasure. What was the result? That supreme treasure is a bit troublesome, said Taoist Shen God. Why? Can't I get it? Temporal Temple Master frowned slightly. A supreme treasure was much more powerful than a pinnacle supreme treasure. Jian Wushuang only had a pinnacle supreme treasure divine sword, which he had just obtained. However, if Jian Wushuang could get a supreme treasure divine weapon that was suitable for him, then his attack would definitely be improved. It was going to be a big step up. I can't say that I can't get it at all. It's just that there are some problems, and I can't solve them either. Taoist Shen God pondered for a moment before saying, in short, there are some twists and turns in this process, or wait for the little guy to come out of seclusion. I will tell him in detail. Yes. The Temporal Temple Master and the Heaven Ancestor all nodded. 2 people also did not continue to inquire. And right at this moment, boom! The entire world suddenly shook. The world trembled, and the special space-time where the 3 rulers were located began to shake wildly, as though it would collapse at any moment. What's going on? The 3 rulers, who were chatting leisurely, all had solemn looks on their faces. Such a huge commotion. Could it be? Taoist Shen God glanced at the Temporal Temple Master and the Heaven Ancestor, only to discover that the latter 2 were just like him, and their eyes were filled with a hint of excitement. Let's go out and take a look. The 3 rulers immediately moved out of space-time, arriving in the void outside the Star Palace. As soon as they left, they immediately sensed the source of that enormous disturbance. As expected, this disturbance came from the place where that little fellow lived. Taoist Shen God was incomparably excited. Haha! It seems that little fellow has finally made a breakthrough. The Temporal Temple Master was overjoyed as well. They all understood that it was impossible for such a disturbance to appear within the Star Palace for no reason. Without a doubt, it was definitely caused by humans. Under normal circumstances, when a cultivator's strength reached a certain level, their breakthrough would cause some sort of disturbance. Moreover, the higher the level of the breakthrough, the more heaven-defying the cultivator would be, the disturbance that would be caused would also be greater. An ordinary immortal saint breaking through to become a principal's master would also cause some commotion. However, the commotion was not very big and would not attract the attention of the three rulers. The key point was that the commotion that was spreading out at this moment, it was so huge that it caused an uproar in the entire Star Palace. In addition, the source of the commotion was where Jian Wushuang lived. Therefore, there was no doubt that Jian Wushuang had broken through. This little guy did not disappoint us. He broke through to become a principal's master so quickly. What a big commotion. When I broke through from a principal's master to a ruler, the commotion I caused was not as big as his, the heaven ancestor said with a smile. Not good. Taoist Shen God's expression suddenly changed. It's a good thing that the little guy made a breakthrough, but we didn't expect him to cause such a big commotion. We didn't hide anything for him. There are so many cultivators in Star Palace, so they must have known that he made a breakthrough at the first moment. I'm afraid this news can't be hidden. Soon, all the forces in this territory will know, and so will Sacred Island. If you know, then so be it. The Temporal Temple Master waved his hand. Since this little fellow has already broken through, unless he doesn't use his full strength or doesn't meet with a ruler realm expert, he will definitely be exposed. We can't hide it even if we want to. We might as well let the world know. It's not a big deal. Even if that Devil Cloud Star Master gets the news, he probably won't be too alert. Yes, Xianxia had reached the level of Principal's Master and stayed there for a long time, but he was still killed by the Star Master. With Xianxia's example, the Star Master might not take him seriously, the Heaven Ancestor added. Taoist Shen God was worried that the news of Jian Wushuang's breakthrough would alert the Star Master and speed up his arrival. However, just as the Temporal Temple Master and the Heaven Ancestor had said, the news of Jian Wushuang's breakthrough would spread sooner or later. Moreover, because of Xianxia's example, Devil Cloud Star Master thought that he could still kill Xianxia, who had been in the Principal's Master for a long time. Therefore, even if Jian Wushuang was allowed to stay in the Principal's Master realm for a period of time, as long as his original body made a move, he could still kill Jian Wushuang easily and would not take it seriously. Hearing their words, Taoist Shen God frowned and did not say anything more. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's divine power had clearly begun to transform. A terrifying divine power swept out from where he was, covering the entire Star Palace in an instant. This divine power was too strong. It had completely exceeded the scope of Principal's Masters, and it was still improving crazily. Within the Star Palace, other than the three rulers, there were still quite a few Principal's Masters present. When that divine might completely filled the area, these Principal's Masters instantly became extremely terrified. Some of the weaker ones, their legs even began to go weak and they almost knelt down. Divine might was unrivaled. This divine might suppressed everything in the surroundings, causing all the Principal's Masters within the Star Palace to tremble in fear. This sort of fear was as if they were facing a powerful ruler alone, and that ruler was unleashing all of his divine might to suppress them. They were indescribably terrified. Most importantly, this divine might was still increasing at a terrifying speed. Too terrifying. This divine might is too terrifying. Who is it? Who is emitting this divine might? How can it be so terrifying? Blood Sword Master is Blood Sword Master. The commotion was caused by him, so he must be the one who released the divine power. It's obvious that he has made a breakthrough. A breakthrough? To become a ruler. The Principal's Masters in Star Palace were all shocked. They were both envious and terrified of Jian Wushuang's breakthrough. Blood Sword Master had been recognized as the strongest Principles Master before he made the breakthrough. Now that he had become a ruler, how strong would he be? They could feel it just by looking at the divine power in front of them. The divine power emanating from Jian Wushuang was obviously not something an ordinary ruler could have. This divine power is really scary. The three rulers stood in the void of the Star Palace and felt the divine power from up close. Their expressions were quite interesting. It's indeed terrifying. It's much more powerful than an ordinary ruler. When I broke through from Principles Master to ruler, the divine power I released was probably not even 1/3 as strong as his. The Heaven Ancestor said, "You are nothing more than the most ordinary ruler of this universe. How can you compare yourself to a freak at the level of a perfect being?" Taoist Shen God laughed. The special life forms of this universe are all extraordinary creatures to begin with. They are far more powerful than ordinary cultivators, especially when it comes to divine power. They have a tremendous advantage, while perfect life forms are even more heaven-defying. I've seen Mystic One make a breakthrough before, and the commotion was just as terrifying. He only broke through to become a Principles Master, but the commotion of his breakthrough and the godly power he released were much greater than many rulers who had just broken through. And this little guy is naturally no weaker than Mystic One. In fact, from what I can see, the godly power he is displaying now is even stronger than Mystic One's. This proves that his potential is definitely greater than Mystic One's. Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and Heaven Ancestor were chatting and laughing. On the other side, Jian Wushuang's transformation of divine power was coming to an end. The overwhelming divine power that had filled the entire Star Palace was finally beginning to fade away. In the secret chamber, Jian Wushuang slowly opened his eyes. The moment he opened them, he clenched his hands tightly and instantly felt a terrifying power that could easily crush stars. This power was much stronger than his previous saint level. It's just as I guessed. At the Immortal Saint realm, my divine power is no less than that of an ordinary Principles Master, or even stronger than an ordinary Principles Master. Now that I've broken through to the Principles Master realm, my divine power is comparable to a ruler. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. The innate advantage of a perfect life-level cultivator was simply too great. And this innate advantage was first reflected in the power of divine power. He had only just broken through to become a Principles Master, but his divine power was already comparable to a ruler. Of course, this also had a few functions of the power of will. After he broke through the power of will he had grasped, it had also undergone a qualitative transformation and had reached a new level. Moreover, this was only the basic power of divine power. Life divine power. With a thought, Jian Wushuang activated the life divine power. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang felt that his strength had increased by a large margin, almost by 40%. It has improved so much all of a sudden? Jian Wushuang was immediately delighted. He had obtained the life divine power from Blood Wave. It was a secret skill from the Life Palace, which was specially for special life forms to cultivate. To a large extent, it could allow special life forms to exert their innate advantages. However, the effect of this secret skill had a lot to do with the realm of the cultivator. Previously, Jian Wushuang was only at the level of the Immortal Saint. After using this secret skill, the increase in power was equivalent to an additional portion of the power of the will. Now that he had reached the level of Principles Master, his divine power was comparable to that of a ruler. When he used the life divine power, his power was increased by another 40%. Don't underestimate this 40% power. This was the power of a ruler. Just an additional 10% was enough to have a great impact on a big battle. 40%. This meant that if he encountered a primary ruler in the future, he could definitely crush his opponent in the power of divine power. Although Senior Blood Wave gave me the life divine power, this life divine power is only the first level. There is still a limit to the advantages I can bring out. If I can learn the complete life divine power one day, it will be even more helpful to me. Jian Wushuang sighed. He knew very well that he could only exert 10% of his innate advantage by using the first stage of the life divine power. However, He had heard from Bloodwave that the creator of the life divine power had cultivated the life divine power to the peak. He could exert more than 10% of his innate advantage. Unfortunately, he did not have the complete life divine power. In addition to the life magic power, Jian Wushuang had another trump card, which was the heaven-cleaving skill. Now that I have broken through to become a principles master, my realm is no weaker than that of my master at his peak. Logically speaking, I should be able to exert the strongest power of the heaven-cleaving skill. I wonder how much the heaven-cleaving skill can improve my strength. Jian Wushuang had a trace of expectation in his heart. The heaven-cleaving skill was the most powerful skill created by his master. Most importantly, this skill was very unique. When Jian Wushuang used it, even Bloodwave was shocked by it. At that time, Bloodwave said that if he could use all the power of his heaven-cleaving skill, he would be able to use 30% of his innate advantage. After all, the life divine power he was cultivating now could increase his own power by 40%. But this 40% was only 10% of his innate advantage. If he could use 10% of his innate advantage, he would be able to use 40% more of his divine power. As for the 30% innate advantage, let's give it a try. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a sharp light. He waved his right hand and immediately used the heaven-cleaving skill. The moment he used the heaven-cleaving skill, the power in his hand suddenly increased. Boom! A low sonic boom was heard in the void. The void in front of him was almost shattered by him. This power! Jian Wushuang widened his eyes. He could clearly feel the sudden increase in power when he used the heaven-cleaving skill. The power had more than doubled. The 30% innate advantage didn't disappoint me. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, a hint of surprise on his face. Then he tried again. He wanted to fully understand the level of power he had reached after using the life divine power and heaven-cleaving skill. After trying again and again, he soon figured it out. My current power is equivalent to that of an ordinary ruler, maybe a little stronger than an ordinary primary ruler. When I use the life divine power, my power will increase by 40%, which is equivalent to 140% of my power. But once I use the heaven-cleaving skill, my power will more than double. If I count all of them, I estimate that my power will be 280% or 290%. Jian Wushuang muttered, 280%? Or even 290%. This was almost 3 times the power of an ordinary primary ruler. 3 times the power of a primary ruler. If I only talk about power, I'm afraid I can compete with an ordinary advanced ruler. Jian Wushuang exclaimed. He had to admit that the life divine power and the heaven-cleaving skill had given him a great surprise, especially the heaven-cleaving skill. One had to know that he had already activated the origin of the Sword Dao universe and had already created a 7th-tier high-grade ultimate art. Combined with the power that was comparable to that of a high-grade ruler, his battle prowess would be able to reach the level of a high-grade ruler in a short period of time. Even if he couldn't completely compare to a high-grade ruler, he would at least be very close. As for a high-grade ruler, one had to know that even in this territory, there were very, very few of them. Taoist Shen God, the Temporal Temple Master, and the Heaven Ancestor were all just low-grade rulers. In the divine beginning realm after Xianxia had fallen, it seemed that only the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master had the battle strength of a senior ruler. However, now that he had broken through to Principles Master, his battle strength had risen to the level of a senior ruler, which surprised Jian Wushuang.